Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Pup coming back at you with some more Pokemon Draft League content, but this time it's not really a new league, that's coming soon, but a team tournament movie. If you guys don't know what a team tournament is, they're usually around 8 teams that have a set amount of money to spend bidding on players to play for their team. Each team plays in a multitude of formats, and you just have to win a majority of those to win the week. In this tournament, we have a ton of really fun formats to play, including ADV, Black and White, X and Y, Pokemon Insurgents, National Dex, Paldea Dex, and Scarlet Violet Ubers. I'm really only known for being a Paldea Dex player, but I decided I wanted a challenge going into this tournament, so I told my team I'd be willing to take any format. When the auction came along, I wasn't actually expecting to get taken. I signed up for another team tour and was passed up on, so when I saw a couple of familiar faces bidding against each other for my services, I was happy and knew I couldn't let them down. Cygnus spent 21k of their 150k budget on me, which isn't breaking the bank, but I still couldn't let team Sean DePaul down. Paldex is my bread and butter, but we also won the auction for Friedel, one of the better Scarlet Violet players that I've ever played, so that format was locked up. Eventually, we locked up players for everything but the old gens, and I had my pick. Play Generation 3, Generation 5, or Generation 6. And there's only one of those formats out of the 3 that I'd never played in draft. So naturally, I went with that, Pokemon Black and White. Anyone who plays Pokemon Black and White drafts knows that the most important roles are hazard setters and hazard removers. Defog doesn't actually clear hazards in this gen, so rapid spinners are super hard to come by and go off the board really fast. Spikes are incredibly dangerous and can single-handedly win games. Our format also banned the use of hidden power and weather plus speed boosting, which notably shifts the board a ton. Usually rain and sand are incredibly powerful, with weather being permanent in Pokemon Black and White, but this knocks them down a peg. And no hidden power means no coverage out of left field, perfect for those high tiers with annoying 4 times the weaknesses that can get one-shot by a simple HP Fire or HP Ice. I held the number 2 overall draft pick for this format, and looking at the board, I knew 2 Pokemon stuck out as easily the best in the format, Lando T and Kyurem Black. Landorus is decently fast, very strong, has offensive and defensive capabilities, and is a great hazard setter that is hard to knock out without HP Ice. Kyurem Black is also incredibly strong with an even higher attack stat, has amazing coverage, can be ran physically or specially, but lacks some of that utility that Landorus has for us. KB does have counters in a format without hidden power, but they're few and far between. Ultimately, I was very happy getting any of the top 2. Naturally, the number 1 pick was Dragonite. Wait, Dragonite? Obviously a good Pokemon. No HP Ice to snipe it, multi-scale is really strong with Dragon Dance and Extreme Speed, but Stealth Rocks absolutely cripple that Pokemon. Oh well, we took Landorus Therian. And then by the time it got back to me, another great Pokemon with a 4 times weakness dropped to me that I couldn't pass up, Ferrothorn. It's the best spike setter in the game. Has access to Stealth Rocks, Knockoff, T-Wave, Gyro Ball, Power Whip, among others, to just be incredibly annoying as a utility Pokemon with a surprising amount of power. Without every Pokemon having easy 4 times damage with Hidden Power Fire, I felt like Ferrothorn was a great pick to build my team around. In the 3rd round, we might have reached a little bit, but my whole team plan started with this Pokemon as a solid Dragon replacement for Kyurem Black that has Dragon Dance potential with 2 great abilities and solid coverage on a 145 basis attack stat. That's Haxorus. This Pokemon is insane, and we'll probably end up using it as a Dragon Dancer or Choice Scarfer all the time, since it has insane sweeping or wall breaking potential. Even unboosted, a neutral Outrage one-shots a solid amount of the metagame, and Earthquake plus Superpower take care of the rest. In the 4th, we pick up a Steel with a great Rapid Spinner with offensive and defensive capability, Blastoise. Toys makes my matchup in a rain totally free with Rain Dish plus Leftovers, while also being able to hit surprisingly hard with Choice Scarf or Choice Specs Water Spout, on top of being a great defensive Pokemon with Rapid Spin, Roar, Toxic, and Scald. In the 5th, we grab Nidoking. It's not the best speed tier at 85, but the potential of Toxic Spikes makes it worth it even alone. That doesn't mention its Life Orb and Sheer Force combo that makes it an incredible stall breaker with coverage like Ice Beam, Flamethrower, T-Bolt, Earth Power, Sludge Wave, and Superpower. Nidoking thrives versus slow, bulky teams, and really deters that playstyle for my opponents. Next, I wanted to fix my speed tiers with one of the faster Pokemon in the format, Raikou. We pair that with our 7th pick, ABOMASNOW, to have ice weather balls to cover any ground types that may think they can take on Raikou with its limited coverage in this generation. Raikou is just very fast and especially strong against bulky waters that my team really struggles to deal with, and acts as really fast momentum with the Volt Switch to be able to chip down our opponents. ABOMASNOW gives me permanent hail, countering rain specifically, but also very solid into sun and sand by chipping those teams and stopping their weather. Smon's also decently bulky and able to stall with the leftovers and protect with Hail Chip. To beat Mons, it shouldn't 1v1, and Ice Shard priority makes it be able to clean house in late game scenarios. Last but not least, it wouldn't be a pup draft without Basculin. It's nice to have another faster Pokemon with 98 base speed, and adaptability waterfall is really strong. Basculin also gives us a strong Aqua Jet and fast Final Gambit to be able to trade 1-for-1 with basically anything. Last thing before we get to the battles, Gem Captains. We have 15 points to give 2 Gem Captains to Pokemon 11 points or under, so I chose Basculin and ABOMASNOW, but this literally never comes into play with my team. Let's battle. In Week 1, my team was facing TSM, the Splashing Magikarps. Our matchup into their Generation 5 team is pretty tough. I mean, my team is very, very weak to fire with Ferrothorn and ABOMASNOW, and my bulky water type is Blastoise. But they have an Infernape on their side, which is really strong. Also, Azelf is really good, being able to speed tie with my fastest Pokemon and outrun everything else on my team. Having that fire coverage and also having Psychic, that really smacks my team really hard. I don't have any good resist to that Pokemon at all. Luckily, I feel like the rest of the matchup is really solid. It's straightforward. Get our rocks up, get our spikes up, be able to chip their team down, wear it down. Make sure the Ferrothorn can't really do too much versus me. Or their Fortress, not the Ferrothorn. Make sure that thing can't spin on me easily. And just remember, if they spin on my Ferrothorn with Iron Barbs or Rocky Helmet or whatever, they can't get rid of the spikes if they die. So that's just something to keep in mind with this game. We have to leave 2 on the bench, and it's hard to really tell what 2 I want to leave. I feel like looking at their team, they probably want to leave the Sceptile and the Electros, maybe the Blissey, because the Blissey's not too great into my top physical threats. So it's got to be 2 of those 3 coming off the bench. Or staying on the bench, really. My team's a little bit harder to figure out here. It's a tough matchup. I have to make sure that I don't get swept by Azelf, make sure I don't get swept by Infernape, make sure I don't get swept by Dragonite, and even then there is a Gem Captain with Unburden Sceptile in the back that can always be a huge threat to my team. So let's see what I ended up bringing. First of all, we have our Basculin here. I really want to trade this Pokemon 1-for-1 with their Azelf. It'd also be nice to trade it with the Infernape, something like that could be solid. And we one-shot basically everything on their team with Final Gambit except for Blissey, which doesn't want to switch into me at all. And the Fortress has Sturdy, so it should be able to live that. But even then, getting it chipped down that much means it can never spin versus my team, which is really good for me anyways. So I basically just want to trade this thing 1-for-1, and that's all it's here for. We also have a fully specially defensive Blastoise. There's no Assault Vest in this generation, which makes it really hard for them to hit me. Well, for me to defend where they're going to hit me on the special side. But we have Rapid Spin because they do have a great spike setter with that Fortress. Protect, Toxic, and Block with the leftovers, so we can really just Toxic stall their team down. It's nice against Blissey being able to trap that thing in since it does have Natural Cure, but it's also really nice against Swampert to be able to chip that thing down so it doesn't really annoy the rest of my team. And if I'm able to get a Toxic off on the Azelf, then I can protect and hopefully chip it down because I do have the Hail coming in the back and some more stall coming in with the team. And then we also have our Nidoking here, Sheer Force Life Orb, so it really takes care of a decent chunk of their team with how slow a lot of their stuff is. From Swampert down is really slow. Also, the Dragonite we were faster than before a boost. So we destroy most of the team. We can also easily eat a hit from the Sceptile or the Infernape as long as they're not gemmed or banded into Earthquake, which is really nice. And then we're able to basically just destroy most of their team with Flamethrower, Blizzard, Sludge Wave. We do have 100% accurate Blizzards in the Hail, and Blizzard is a one-shot on Dragonite through multi-scale, so that's really nice to have in this game. Like I said, we do have ABOMASNOW. We are an attacking variant on this with Ice Shard, but we're also Focus Punch that can catch the Blissey switching in or going for a T-Wave or going for rocks on me. I think they're going to get greedy, go for that. Focus Punch does a ton of damage, but we're just basically here to stall out their team. I mean, the hail is really strong. They should run overcoat on the fortress to be able to actually heal back with leftovers versus that. But if for some reason they run sturdy versus me, then I'm very happy about that. But it's also just nice to be able to chip down Azelf and Infernape, those Pokemon that are really annoying for me, and then make sure the Dragonite does not keep its multi-scale for most of the game. So really, really good. And then Ice Shard just great into, obviously, the Dragonite if it starts to try to sweep me, or the Sceptile, which is really good in this game as well. We have Ferrothorn here as well. We have the Occaberry just so we can't get one shot by a flamethrower from the Azelf or the Infernape unless they're like choice specs. I think choice specs overheat from the Infernape will be able to one shot me even with a lot of special defense. But I want to make sure that I'm able to eat like a Life Orb Flare Blitz or Charcoal Flare Blitz from that Pokemon as well. And we can just set up spikes versus their side, potentially not let them be able to spin versus me. We also have Stealth Rocks, which are even better in this game. Leech Seed is solid as well, and then Knockoff is really nice, especially into Azelf. If they want to lead with that Pokemon, I'm probably just going to click Knockoff in their face to make sure I get rid of like a Life Orb that really makes it hard for my team to switch into that Pokemon at all, because the Blastoise doesn't even want to switch into it if they're Life Orbed. And then last up, we have our Haxorus here, our shiny I-Call Hax, sponsored by Draco, trying to give us some Draco luck in this. But Choice Scarf variant is really strong versus their team once that Fortress is gone. Also, if Pert is there, it's a little bit tough, but it's still solid. We have Dragon Claw, which just destroys through their team. With Mold Breaker, we're hitting through the multi-scale on the Dragonite, which is really nice. We have Earthquake as well, which we can freely lock ourselves into if the Dragonite isn't there, since we have Mold Breaker to get rid of the Levitate on Azelf and the Electros. Outrage is a nice click, and then if we do end up getting like burned or T-Waved, we have Facade as well. So that's the team. This matchup looks really, really rough for me, and my team does not believe in me at all for this one, so hopefully we can prove them wrong with a nice W to start us off. So this is the team preview for the first week. We see everything really scary into me. No Swampert and no Sceptile, so no Gem Captain, and that Pokemon was faster than my entire team. But still, I brought a team that's really slow anyways, so, I mean, we're still getting outran by Azelf and Infernape with basically everything, which is tough for me. But it's okay. We're still looking fine into them. I think that the Azelf, as long as we can break that thing down, we have a good shot to win this game. And I really need to break down that Blissey, so I'm mostly scared about that. But let's get started here. They're going to lead out with the Azelf. We're going to lead out with Ferrothorn here. And, I mean, it just makes so much sense for them to go for, like, a Stealth Rock or a U-turn here, something like that. Predicting my switch, kind of seeing what kind of special defensive wall I'm going to go out to. So I'm going to stay in here. I'm also Occaberry, so I always live any one hit. And they are just going to click U-turn, which is totally fine. We're going to get Iron Barb's damage off on them. As they swap into the Infernape, we get a knockoff off on them as well. So no more Charcoal on that Pokemon. And now without Charcoal, I'm pretty sure I can live anything since I have the Occaberry. So I'm going to stay in again on the U-turn, get some extra chip damage, which is great for me. They're going to go out to the Eel, and we're going to click Stealth Rocks, which is just a great start for us. Now that Azelf and the Infernape are getting chipped down, they're going to need to get that Fortress into spin sometime soon because the Dragonite really, really wants to keep its multi-scale. But we're going to go out to Haxorus here on the aggressive play, predicting Flamethrower. Even if they get a burn, we have Facades. It's not the end of the world, but they don't. And then we double out to Nidoking because the Fortress is so obvious. We can throw off a Flamethrower here as they go out to Blissey. So they do catch us with this one as we do Flamethrower here. But we get a nice crit, so big damage on that Pokemon. And we're still in a good spot because everything's getting chipped down. The Sturdy's broken on Fortress and it's taking a lot of damage. So soon it won't be able to switch in too well to my Haxorus, even though it, has pretty high defense and resists my moves. But, Soft Boiled makes a lot of sense, or T-Wave or something. We're going to go out to ABOMASNOW here as they do Soft Boiled. And I assume that this Pokemon is going to be the rocker on their side. Since my only spinner is Blastoise, it's really hard for me to get that Pokemon in. So I think they're going to go for it here. So we're going to click Focus Punch, and hopefully they don't attack me with Seismic Toss or anything. So we're going to tighten the focus. They're going to set up their rocks, and we're going to get a nice Focus Punch. Does 84% on this Pokemon. And with the Hail Chip, they can't recover up any HP at all. So we're in a great spot. They're going to swap out to Electros. That's fine with me. I'm just going to Ice Shard, try to pick up that kill on the Blissey. But we're still in a great spot. I mean, looking at their team, nothing's dead, but ABOMASNOW, I mean, with the Hail up now, chips down everything on their team. The Azelf is going to take Hail plus Stealth Rocks, we also have Protect to chip it down more. Same with Infernape. The Dragonite is already gone with Multiscale, and we should be able to one-shot it if they're not Yachi at this range. Blissey is basically dead. It almost dies on switch into Rocks, and everything on my team can kill it. And the Electros is getting chipped down as well and has no way to recover its HP. So we're going to get spot. We're going to go out to Blastoise here because Flamethrower makes a ton of sense. As they click Knockoff, not the end of the world. Now we don't have any leftovers, so the hail is chipping me down. So I'm just basically going to use this Pokemon as a Rapid Spin bot. They end up over-predicting and clicking U-turn, which is great, and they go out to Azelf, which I don't think makes too much sense here because this is my wall for it. They're going to go out to Azelf. They're going to take the hail damage. They're going to take Rocks, and we have Protect on this Pokemon, so we might as well just trade some health. But they show to be Zen Headbutt, which makes about negative 10 million% to me. Like, it doesn't make any sense. We have Ferrothorn here. They're going to take Iron Barbs when we switch in. Like, why would they be running a physical set? Doesn't make a lot of sense, but they're going to switch out to the Electros. We just throw off a Toxic because it would have been nice to get on that Pokemon if they did try to Zen Headbutt and try to take me down. We get Toxic on the Electros, so now it's taking even more residual damage. Even though it does have leftovers, the Toxic is going to rack up. So we're going to Protect here. And they go for Super Fang, which is totally fine with me. I don't really care to have this Blastoise anymore, but we can go out to Ferrothorn here since they're not going to Flamethrower, and we get the Iron Barbs damage extra on them. And we're in a pretty good spot. The Electros is on 3%. We're just going to hard back into Blastoise on the Flamethrower, catch them with that read there, and they're just going to go down to the Hail Chip here. So 1 kill for ABOMASNOW so far. They're going to go to Azelf, which I think is another misplay. I feel like Loki, anything else on their team is better. Probably the Fortress to try to spin. But this thing's taking extra damage from the Rocks and the Hail again. We're going to Protect again, get some more Hail Chip on this Pokemon. And then we can potentially go out to Ferrothorn and get an Iron Barbs damage on it. So they're going to Zen Headbutt. It's a 2-hit KO, but that's fine because they're taking more chip. And we're just going to stay in here, I think. No, we do double out to Blastoise. It doesn't matter. We're sacking one of these 2 Pokemon. The Blastoise is fine here, though, because we can Protect in front of Infernape. They're not Slack Off or anything like that, so they're not going to punish us. But we're just going to sack this Pokemon. And Infernape's now, like, at just about 50%. The Stealth Rocks are really crushing down on their team. We can go out to Basculin here, Choice Scarf set on this Pokemon. And they're just going to sack off the Blissey to me, which is a good idea. I think if they went Fortress, it would be a little bit scary because we're doing a lot of damage with an adaptability boosted Pokemon. But they see that we potentially could be choiced. They probably think Choice Bandits. So they're going to go Dragonite. Potentially can Dragon Dance in my face here. We're going to go out to our Scarfed Haxorus. Because if they do Dragon Dance, then we are faster than them, and we should always live a +1 E-Speed. But they go for Outrage and just take me out. Not the end of the world at all. I mean, totally fine. I don't really care that much. We're going to go out to ABOMASNOW here. I'm going to Protect just because if they're Yachi Berry, they had a chance to live in Ice Shard, but still a bad play because they could have ended their Outrage right there. But in Gen 5, it's not like 2 or 3 turns. It could go forever. It could be a 1-turn Outrage, I'm pretty sure. But we don't get punished there. We get that KO. And we're just going to Protect in front of this Infernape again. We know that this Pokemon does not have any recovery, so we're just going to get some extra chip on this Pokemon. Switch out to Nidoking here. We don't really care about this Pokemon because ABOMASNOW at this point basically beats their whole team. Fortress is annoying, but it can't heal itself up. And with leftovers on ABOMASNOW, I think we're just totally fine to be able to outstall them. So they're going to end up taking out my Nidoking there. It's fine by me. They're down to 23%. We get to go Basculin and just basically get a free knockout versus their team. Fortress can come in and only take 22 because they're max physical defense. But they're taking a good chunk. They're Rocky Helmet, so they're not leftovers, so they can't get any health back. We're just going to sack the Ferrothorn on the Gyro Ball. Really thought it would be a Rapid Spin coming out there, which is fine anyways because we get some Rocky Helmet. Or I guess we get Iron Barbs damage off on that Pokemon. They're going to take more Hail Chip because they're sturdy instead of Overcoat. And they don't even get rid of the hazards that are really just destroying their team at this point. We can go out to the ABOMASNOW. We don't take too much to the Gyro Ball because we are not that fast on this Pokemon. We're going to Wood Hammer, which probably was a bad play here. Probably should have Ice Sharded to avoid the Rocky Helmet. But we're still even living another Gyro Ball, so we're totally fine. Going to Protect here and make sure they take a little bit more damage since they can't really do anything. Like, the worst they could do is Spike, which doesn't do a thing to my team. So we're going to get another KO with the Lorax here with Ice Shard. Infernape comes in and it's on 10%. We know they're not Slack Off, so we're just going to Protect here just to make sure they're in range of the Ice Shard, just in case they had a lot of HP or defense investment. and we're going to get that Ice Shard off. Azelf is going to come in next. It's going to take 12.5% due to the rocks, and we're not even going to care. We're just going to click Ice Shard. Even in a game where we just had Fortress chip down, we have Choice Scarf, Basculin, which could just click Aqua Jet or most likely just click Scarf Waterfall. I didn't know what the Azelf item was at that point, so wasn't 100% sure if I should click Waterfall or Aqua Jet in that end game, but we would have been fine no matter what. But a great game in week 1 where my team definitely did not believe in me, playing against a person who's actually really good at Generation 5, and this is my first Gen 5 game ever. I think it was really important for me to catch the Blissey with the Focus Punch. I mean, ABOMASNOW just absolutely destroyed in this game. Going in with both my low tiers, the Basculin and the ABOMASNOW, great Pokemon in this game, and I feel like I played it really well, especially for my first one. In week 2, we ended up playing Team Countercoat, and they have a nasty rain team here. Remember, you cannot have like Swift Swimmer with the permanent rain, so that's why we don't see Kingdra, which makes their team a lot less scary. But Thundurus, Therian with thunders that are always going to hit, and then Manaphy is just really scary to play against. They also have Kyurem, which is annoying. No Dragon Dance or anything that we have to worry about, but it's just incredibly strong, and we don't have any good switch-ins to Freeze Dry on our team. Metagross is also an issue for my team. It doesn't really touch like Ferrothorn, but like Ice Punch for Lando, EQ, Ice Punch, Meteor Mash, it's just really strong into my team. Hitmontop's also pretty annoying, being able to just intimidate my team and make sure that I can't get Spikes up to stay with the Ferrothorn, because Spikes and Stealth Rocks look insanely good in this matchup. They also have their 2 gem captains, being the Tangela, which is a good defensive Pokemon, but I don't think so much in this matchup when we have a Nidoking that absolutely smokes it. It does not touch Ferrothorn, it doesn't touch ABOMASNOW. And then also Cinccino, which is pretty solid. It has a 115 speed tier, which outruns my entire team. It speed ties with Raikou, but it's still really solid. Tail Slap Technician is like, it does hit. It definitely does hit my team, but when I have a Fortress or a Ferrothorn on the other side, it's really hard to justify bringing that Pokemon, so I assume that we're just going to see the top 6 in this matchup. For my team this week, we start off with a Raikou. Has a pretty mixed bag in its EVs, having EVs in every stat except for attack, but I mean, honestly, it's just like a facade. I'm just trying to outspeed everything except for that Thundurus. And then we are a Rest Calm Mind set, which I thought was pretty fun here. Rest just so we like can get through like Scald Burns or Toxic Politoed. But we have Thunder, which doesn't miss in the rain, and then Shadow Ball hits the Kyurem, hits the Metagross, hits the Thundurus. I wanted to run Aura Sphere, but I don't think you can run that with a Timid Nature. I think it has to be Rash just because of how the events are in this, but still a really solid Pokemon here if we're ever able to, get set up with a couple Calm Minds and get in a good position, because Thunder just destroys their team. We also do have Landorus, which you might not expect to come to this matchup, but it is here. It's pretty strong just as a nice Metagross check. Even if they do have Ice Punch, we can eat it. It also is great into the Hitmontop when there's no Triple Axle in this generation. We have Stone Edge, which is great into the Thundurus Therian. That's why we have a bunch of special defense, because we can take a +2 Psychic from that Pokemon. We have Earthquake, U-Turn, Stealth Rocks, and Stone Edge with our Adamant Nature 112 attack should be able to one-shot the Thundurus if they're no defense, and even if they have a good amount of defense, we should be able to one-shot them most of the time, especially if we crit. We also have Blastoise here, which has Rain Dish plus Leftovers to get 1/8 of its health back every single turn. Rapid Spin, Scald, Roar, Protect. This Pokemon just stalls them out forever. There's no real way to stop it except for like burning me with Scald, which hopefully does not happen in this game. I guess they could also Toxic me as well. And I thought about running Refresh on this, but I thought Rapid Spin might just be a little bit better. And Roar is like necessary in this game just to make sure that Manaphy cannot set up all over my team. We also have a Ferrothorn in this matchup, which is a pretty good counter to the Metagross with Spikes, Power Whip, Iron Head, and T-Wave. T-Wave can, obviously paralyze anything on their team besides that Thundurus. We also don't really care to paralyze the Manaphy because they have Hydration. So if the rain is up, they'll be fine against that. But we have Power Whip that basically just destroys their team, besides like Tangela, which isn't going to come out. And then also the Kyurem, which we hit really hard with Iron Head. So we can always, freely hit that Pokemon. We also have Choice Scarf Haxorus outrun basically their entire team. Outruns a Scarf Kyurem, which I'm pretty worried about on the team. Outrage is really strong versus their team except for the Metagross. Everything else kind of just gets bodied. We have Earthquake for that Metagross, Dragon Claw if I need a better hit, and the Facade in case we end up getting burned. And last but not least is going to be a Chesto, Resto, ABOMASNOW with Snow Warning just to make sure that we can always get rid of the rain if we need it gone. But Ice Shard, Earthquake, Wood Hammer on max attack Adamant should be pretty strong versus their team. Ice Shard is really nice to clean up Thunderous because that Pokemon is a pain for me to deal with. And then Wood Hammer, I mean, just destroys the Manaphy, destroys the Politoed. Make sure that those Pokemon can never just like straight up beat me. So looking at the battle, they brought exactly what we expected. The top 6, no Tangela, no Chinchino, and it's really solid for me. I feel like Ferrothorn is really hard for them to break. They kind of just have to brute force it with Kyurem, which is really strong into my team. I do potentially have like a ABOMASNOW or my Blastoise that might be able to take a hit or two, but really like it's hard for me to break that Pokemon, and I'm going to have to break it offensively, which is why we do have that Scarf Haxorus here. But let's get straight into the battle. We're going to lead off with this Ferrothorn into the Metagross. Totally fine with me. We're just going to trade some rocks for spikes here. I do think it's a little bit easier for them to spin in this game, but it does give me opportunities to go down to potentially Landorus or like Haxorus and just start clicking buttons versus them. But this Metagross does not threaten my Ferrothorn at all, so we can just freely like get up some spikes until they show Natural Gift. So they're whatever Fire Berry, like I don't even know what berry this is. It's 4 times super effective and does 48% to me, which is not very much, but it's really annoying because I thought this Pokemon was going to basically be able to wall most of their team. We're going to get a T-Wave off on this Metagross, make it not such a big threat, but now they don't have an item, so we don't have to worry about that. And, you know, we kind of just beat this thing 1v1 anyways. We're going to go out to Blastoise here to potentially spin, though, as they make the nice double out to Thunderous there, which is annoying for me because, you know, obviously this Blastoise is very, very good into their team. So I'm going to go straight out to Landorus. And I'm expecting them to click Nasty Plot here as they do, but we always eat a +2 Psychic, which is their best move to hit us with. And if we land a Stone Edge, and if they're not like super duper invested, then we should just be able to one-shot it here. As they are going to Psychic, bring us down to 29, Stone Edge, one-shots them. Perfect. That's a great turn for us. They did end up having defense investment, but it was fine, and we are totally fine in this. I mean, they had a decent shot to live that. And if they did, I mean, they knock me out. I don't have this Pokemon. I go into ABOMASNOW and Revenge, and it's like fine. I also could go out to like Haxorus and show that I'm Scarfed, or even Raikou would come out at that point and just be able to click Shadow Ball versus their team. So it's totally fine. But they bring out Kyurem. It's going to take the spikes. I'm expecting this thing to be Scarf or Specs or something. We're just going to go out to ABOMASNOW. They show to be a very, very strong Ice Beam there. We're not going to be able to live another one, but we can get some nice chip damage on this thing as they are leftovers. We're just going to get a little bit of damage off with Ice Shard. They do have a decent amount of bulk investment, I think, looking at that damage since we were max Adamant. But we get to go out to Haxorus here, and their switch-ins to Dragon Claw. I mean, Metagross is going to take a spike. It's paralyzed. We're just going to be chipping it down. That's the play. Just click Dragon Claw. Make sure this thing gets chipped down. You know, they're going to take a decent chunk there. They're also going to take the Hail. So now they're down to 62. Every single time they come in, it's not a good time for them. So we can go Blastoise here. We can freely spin now versus their team since they have no Thunderous that really threatens me. So they're going to go out to Kyurem here, take a little bit more spikes damage, which is totally fine with me. And we're going to get that spin off, so no hazards on my side for now. They can always reset them back up with Metagross, but I'm fine with them. They're going to substitute here, and I make a great play clicking Roar here. I just wanted some more hazard damage off on them, and I thought they might want to overpredict or like double out into potentially the Metagross or like the Manaphy or something to try to, you know, get a Tail Glow plus Energy Ball off on me. But they sub, which is great for me. Brings out the Metagross, so that thing does not ever come in now on Haxorus, which is great. They're going to switch out to Hitmontop, so potentially they can get rid of those hazards to keep it. We're going to get a Scald off. This thing is getting chipped down, and I'm fine trading because I can always get my spikes up later for free. So we are going to go hard out to Landorus as they click Toxic. I'd rather have this Mon be Toxic to them my Blastoise, because my Blastoise just destroys them in the snow. Or in the rain, my bad, as soon as they get that up. And they're going to have to do it pretty soon. But, you know, we can just click EQ here. Unfortunately, miss out on the KO, and they can Rapid Spin. And they get the Switch Initiative on me, which is really tough. But, I mean, I can get another Spike up for free with Ferrothorn, as long as I'm not in the face of Kyurem. But they are going to go out to Kyurem here. which is fine by me. They're just going to take a KO with Ice Beam, and that's totally fine. We basically just get a free kill by going out to Haxorus. We can click Outrage if we really want to, as they're going to go out to the Metagross. I just click Dragon Claw. It's technically not going to 2-hit KO them, but we do have the Hail. So we 2-hit KO them now with the Dragon Claw, and we're in a great spot. They could potentially bring out Politoed or Manaphy, but we force the Rain out, which is great. I can go out to Raikou here and click basically uncontested Thunders versus their team, as they do get a first turn burn, which is a little bit annoying for me. And I definitely should just, click Thunder versus them. They don't have a great switch in at all. 30% chance to paralyze if they wanted to go out to potential Kyurem. They're going to Encore me into Calm Mind, so a horrible play by me there. Like, just rough. I should never have done that. Should never have put myself at risk there. But we're going to go out to Blastoise here on the obvious Scald. 30% chance to burn. Luckily, we don't get burned, which is nice for me. They're going to Scald again. 30% chance to burn. They don't burn. We're going to send off a Scald back. 30% chance, no burn. So no burns. So maybe it was fine to get first turn burned on Raikou. Is, we're not going to get burned there. They're going to throw off even more Scalds. They only have 24. I guess we only have 24 as well. But they are probably going to be able to get one off. They're going to Encore us into Protect, but that's totally fine because we're going to get back up to basically full with this Pokemon and be really strong versus them. Now we go back out to Ferrothorn. They're going to click Scald. They're not going to burn. We get a free Spike up here forever, but they do show to be Focus Blast. I completely forgot this Pokemon had Focus Blast. So it's a little bit annoying. We do choose a T-Wave instead of getting a Spike up. I think a Spike would have been better here just to pressure the Kyurem a little bit more and make sure this Politoed can't just like switch forever. But it's fine. I'm just glad that I landed the T-Wave. They're going to click Scald again on my Blastoise. No burn again, which is nice because burn in this generation does 12.5%, which would basically just cancel out everything. We Roar, bring out the Kyurem. Maybe not the best thing to bring out, but if they click Draco, it's not the end of the world. They are just going to click Draco as we Roar them out again. So just predicting the sub. So they, made a good play here, but we get a lot of health back anyways. So they're going to make another play out into the Politoed. At this point, them being paralyzed is annoying for me since we can never get a burn on them, but it's also not horrible. We can just chip it down, and as long as we don't get burned by them, I mean, we have the Plot Armor or the Covert Cloak, which is not an item in this generation. I mean, we're just chilling. Also, I mean, once I get a free switch out to Raikou, we basically just clean up. I mean, the Kyurem might be able to take a hit. We have a good chance to paralyze it, and we hit it really hard with Thunder plus Shadow Ball anyways. But yeah, still no burns. They've used 10 Scalds, and they burn my Raikou, and that's all. They get fully paralyzed here. We're just, chilling with Blastoise here. Does not care at all. We're going to make an aggressive play out to Raikou this turn as they click Scald. It's going to do a ton of damage, but we can always rest it back up if we need. We would die to a Scald here, so they're going to Protect. We are going to Thunder. Bad play by me. Just should have rested there, but oh well. Not a big deal. They're just getting some extra HP. And they're going to go out to Kyurem this turn. And of course I rest. So they make the good plays there. I make the bad plays, I guess. But now I'm just worried that they can click Substitute here, as they do on my Kyurem coming out, or on my Ferrothorn. Cannot speak. And they're just going to Ice Beam, take that Pokemon out. Luckily, I can always go Blastoise and Roar this Pokemon out, but it's a tough situation. We are going to get a lot of our HP back from the rain and lefties, but it's just not fun for anyone involved. This dance goes on for a long time here, but we still do look good when Raikou wakes up, if that Pokemon can ever wake up. And also Haxorus just clicks Outrage versus their team and basically just sweeps them as well. So I'm just waiting. Basically, if I get burned, it's not the end of the world, man. Like, I just let this Pokemon go down, and I should be able to win with like Haxorus or Raikou, or both of them. I should be in a pretty decent spot to be able to do that. As we are going to make an aggressive play out to Raikou, try to burn some sleep turns, as they're going to Scald. It's going to do a lot of damage. Try to catch them on a Protect or like an Encore turn or something. And then we're going to double out to Haxorus here on the Kyurem. So great switch for me. And we are just going to be able to click Dragon Claw and basically pick up a 2-hit KO on basically anything. But I make a misplay and I Outrage here. And why is this a misplay? Because if we Outrage, we knock this Politoed out with 2 turns. Then we get confused. They could potentially go Kyurem and sub up on my Confusion. And my Blastoise, I mean, we have a decent amount of HP, but it's not full HP. I also don't even know if Outrage one-shots the Manaphy, so they might be able to set up on me and then just put me in a really bad spot. So Outrage, very bad click here, but we do click it, and it's going to force a KO on their team. They're going to protect here, be able to get some of my turns of Outrage done. We do show to have a 3-turn at least. So we're going to take that Pokemon out with a crit. So now it's down to Manaphy or the Kyurem. Manaphy shows to be insanely bulky, gets a nice big Scald off, and we're going to hit them with Outrage one more time. We do hit it, so no confusion for me until right now. And it's scary here because this Kyurem is in my face. Their play is to substitute every time, and we are confused. I can't roar them out with Blastoise anymore. Like, I just cannot, because they don't have any other Pokemon to be roared at to. So if we hit ourselves in confusion and they substitute, I can lose the game on the spot here. So I choose to switch out to Blastoise because if I was going to lose the game, I'm going to lose the game anyways. I'd rather preserve differential if I end up winning rather than like sacking my Haxorus here. So they're going to sub like I expect, but they only have so many Draco Meteors. They only have 6. They have Ice Beams and can try to freeze me, but we are Scald. As I just click Roar because I'm dumb a little bit, I guess. This Pokemon, they have leftovers on their side, but they don't do that much into me. I mean, we have Protect, we have the Rain Dish plus lefties. So this is where the no burns were really, really nice for me. You know, they get a big crit, not the biggest deal. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. We can always Protect, get some extra health. They can sub, get some extra health. But basically, it's going to come down to, like, if they can get me in range of Draco Meteor, or Draco Meteor crit will always kill me, I'm pretty sure. So they have, like, 6 chances. They show to be last move Roost, which doesn't, I mean, it doesn't really change much for me here. It just means it's a stall fest no matter what. But if they click Draco and then don't crit, then we're in a good spot because then they do 0 damage to me. And, you know, they just can't do too much. Ice Beam is doing a good chunk for now. We're just going to click Rapid Spin versus them. I mean, I have 64 Rapid Spin, so I always can PP stall them out. They're just going to keep clicking Ice Beam. We're going to keep going over and over until they end up forfeiting. And, I mean, it is what it is here. We stalled them out. We got really lucky with no Scald burns. They clicked Scald 15 times versus my team and burned my Raikou on the first turn and then didn't get a single other burn on any other Pokemon, which is tough. And I also didn't play my best. I definitely should have clicked Dragon Claw with my Haxorus. I definitely should have just played a little bit better around the Kyurem earlier in the game as well. Sacking my ABOMASNOW when I really should just went Blastoise easily. But it is what it is. I mean, we still played a solid game here and got a 3-0 win, which is nice against a pretty like decent opponent, and you know, my second ever game of black and white draft. So you know, we're chilling at 2-0. My team ended up winning this week as well. I'm not sure exactly how much we ended up winning by, but I know we won this week because we won a lot of weeks. Spoiler alerts. In week 3, we ended up matching up against a Black Gold. They have a really scary team here. Really horrible matchup for me, if I'm going to be completely honest. We do end up having a lot of bad matchups, which maybe is just me whining about the matchups, but also maybe just my team isn't the best, especially with the speed tiers that I drafted. But they have, you know, starting at the top of their speed tiers, they have a Gem Captain Crobat, which looks really solid as a special attacker into my team. Clicking Heat Wave for Ferrothorn, Giga Drain as well is pretty solid. I think they have Icy Wind, which hits Haxorus, and also the Landorus. Basically just destroys my whole entire team. But I could also see it as more of a bulky U-turning Super Fanging threat versus my team. They also have Weavile, which just absolutely clobbers me. They have Low Kick, which hits the ABOMASNOW and the Ferrothorn on my team. They can hit Blastoise with Night Slash, but it might be my best check for that. Everything else just completely gets bodied. Excadrill, I mean, a huge drop in the speed tiers, but still a really strong Pokemon. Probably like the second best spinner in the format after Starmie. Really strong stabs, but not that good in this matchup against me since I do have Lando. Also, it doesn't really do too much into the Ferrothorn unless they're like +2 Brick Break. They have Rotom Wash, which is really solid. I mean, just always being an annoying Pokemon, and Volt Switching around, Hydro Pumping. It does that very, very well versus my team. They also have Medicham, which is one of their low tier Pokemon, but really strong in this matchup. Just basically clicks close combat versus my team, and I don't have a great resist. My resist is Landorus, and if they click Ice Punch on a switch, then I'm just gone anyways. I assume like a Choice Scarf or even Choice Band variant is really solid here. Next down the board, they have Druddigon, which seems like it could be like a good rocker versus me, but I also think that offensive like Choice Bandit or even Choice Scarf looks really good. Or like Life Orb Sheer Force with like Fire Punch, Ice Punch, just destroys my Ferrothorn and Landorus and doesn't get one shot by anything on my team outside of the Haxorus for the most part. Maybe like ABOMASNOW as well, but still really solid versus me. They also have Reuniclus, which is a big Calm Mind threat versus me, and Regenerator Pokemon if they want. Another Magic Guard Pokemon that could be just annoying. Clicks Psychic that I don't really have a great resist into because they will also click Focus Blast into my Ferrothorn. And last up is Snorlax, which can also curse and be really annoying because I cannot one-shot that thing since I don't have a fighting type on my team. So it's really tough for me in this one. They have 8 Pokemon that could come to the game. I really do expect them to leave like the Snorlax and the Excadrill on the bench. I do think that both of their low tiers should come to this game, and obviously Weavile and Crobat destroy me. And I feel like, you know, the Rotom Wash should come as well. It's kind of a toss-up between like the Reuniclus, the Excadrill, and the Snorlax as that last Pokemon. But let's see what I am bringing for this matchup. You're going to see a theme on this team. I was cooking something deep. We were running a lot of choice Pokemon and a couple berries as well. But we're going to start off with Blastoise here. Choice Scarf Water Spout is very, very strong versus their team. They have 2 good resists in Druddigon and the Rotom Wash, and then Snorlax is also decent. Everything else on their team basically just like straight up dies. I think everything except for the Reuniclus and the 3 I mentioned just like straight up die to a Water Spout. The rest of the Pokemon, like Reuniclus probably gets 2 at KO'd if they're offensive. Rotom, if they're offensive, they definitely like get 2 or 3 at KO'd, but they don't want to switch in very well, especially if we end up getting Stealth Rocks up. Snorlax can probably take it because they probably run Spadef. And Druddigon, maybe. We'll see what kind of set they run with that. And next up, we have a Choice Banded Haxorus, which is insanely strong in this game. Basically, our only way to like be able to threaten the Rotom, the Snorlax. I mean, threatens basically all those Pokemon on their team. But we just for free click Outrage versus their team, especially since I don't see the Excadrill coming. We have X-Scissor for the Reuniclus and the Weavile. Low kick hits Weavile, it also destroys the Snorlax. Outrage Dragon Claw just solid into their team. We have Choppleberry ABOMASNOW with a ton of defense and attack investment. This is a good answer to the Weavile. We have Brick Break versus them for 4 times super effective damage. Swords Dance, Ice Shard, Wood Hammer is solid as well. We just don't die to a +2 low kick with the defense investment and the Choppleberry, which is really the only important thing about this Pokemon in the matchup. Continuing our choiced Pokemon, we have a Choice Scarf Basculin here. Final Gamut Pokemon, but I don't see myself actually using it more as Final Gamut. That's why we're not like max HP. Although this should be able to knock out basically everything barring the Snorlax and probably like max HP Druddigon. But Waterfall is really strong once we get rid of Druddigon. Even into Rotom Wash, it's like decent. But it's great to be able to clean up the Weavile and the Crobat late game. We have Aqua Jet, and then Superpower is good into Snorlax and Drill. We also have Choice Scarf Lando T with a lot of attack investment, adamant nature with explosion. So I should be able to clean up something like the Snorlax if they like are annoying, like a Choice Scarf, Medicham, anything like that. I also have Earthquake, U-Turn, and Stealth Rocks, just solid versus their whole team. I might be able to catch the Rotom Wash on a switch-in with the explosion as well, which would be really nice if they expect me to go for like a Stealth Rock, an Earthquake, or a U-Turn. And last but not least is going to be Choppleberry Ferrothorn for the same reasons that we had Choppleberry on the ABOMASNOW. With 2-wave knockoff power up Gyro Ball. Nice thing about Choppleberry on this Pokemon is that means that I should be able to live a Focus Blast. Even I think from +1 Reuniclus we should be living, even though we're just like max Fizz Def. And we can click Gyro Ball versus that Pokemon, and it actually does a ton of damage, even though Reuniclus is really slow. Because we are just insanely slow, 0 speed, minus speed nature. So if they're not the same, then we're actually in a pretty decent spot being able to do a lot of damage to that Pokemon. And Power Whip is really strong versus them as well. I mean, they don't have a great switch-in besides the Druddigon to any attack from this Pokemon. So looking at team preview here, they do bring basically everything that's scary. Not all what I expected. I did see the Excadrill staying on the bench, but I didn't see Medicham staying on the bench for sure. I thought that Pokemon was insanely strong here, and it's kind of like, it's really nice that Pokemon's on the bench. But to start it out, they're going to lead with the Druddigon, which makes me like think that this Pokemon is going to be more like a defensive, like Roar, Stealth Rock, Toxic, Dragon Tail sort of Pokemon. And Blastoise versus them is not a good lead. It led great into basically everything that I thought was going to lead besides Rotom. I didn't think this thing was going to lead for sure. So a little bit annoying. We're just going to throw off a Scald, try to get a burn, and we do off the bat, which is really lucky, but they just Stealth Rock, so it's not like they were going to hit me that turn anyways. But a good way to start for me. We're going to go hard Landorus on this turn as they click Toxic. I don't mind this Pokemon being toxic at all, especially when I really just want to throw off an explosion and take out either Snorlax or Rotom in this game. It's really the only thing I want Landorus for here. As they're going to go hard out to Rotom Wash, we're going to get our Stealth Rocks up. So we're scarfed into this, we have to switch out, and we end up going out to Ferrothorn here. They're going to T-Wave, hits us with that, which makes us even slower, which means the Gyro Balls are going to be doing a lot to their team. They're going to Volt Switch out, which is fine. They're going to go Reuniclus, which is Magic Guard. Gyro Ball does 35% to this thing, so actually a ton. We're going to T-Wave it, so our Gyro Ball is going to do a little bit less, but maybe they won't be able to move every single turn, which they do. We actually trade Paralysis on that turn, and then I get a Power Whip off on them, which is going to do 31, so we're in a good spot there. They choose to recover as we miss a Power Whip, so not like we're winning this battle, but they do miss a Focus Blast, which is nice. I think we would have lived that since we are Chople Berry on this Pokemon. But they get fully paralyzed again, and we're going to crit them with Power Whip. So we get really, really lucky here with a 2x crits in Black and White. And we're just going to be able to take this Pokemon out. Even if Ferrothorn went down, we would have been able to get this Pokemon most likely chipped to like 60% like it was there. And then it's not too bad for us to clean up with like an X-Scissor from Choice Banded Haxorus. So not horrible, but we see Crobat come out here, which is just a telltale sign that it's at least mixed. It's got to have Heat Wave, potentially with the Fire Gem. So I don't have a great switch into this Pokemon, like potentially Landorus at this point. I can also just let Ferrothorn go down like I do. They don't show to have the gem on that. I am assuming that this thing is going to be gemmed though. We're going to go out to Blastoise, kind of bluff that this thing is a special wall versus their team. So they're going to go out to Snorlax, take a little bit of damage, and Scald is going to come off. No burn for us there, which is fine. We're going to go hard Landorus on this Pokemon as they go for another Toxic. Perfect for me. And at this point, I mean, Explosion is really, really strong versus them, as they're going to switch out to Rotom Wash here, and we are just going to boom on it, get a nice big crit on the Rotom Wash. If it mattered, they would have lived on like maybe 5%, and it's easy to clean up with literally everything on my team. So, you know, not too bad. But we're going to go out to ABOMASNOW. They're going to go out to Snorlax here. Not a horrible matchup for me, but a little bit annoying. Wish I had like Low Kick instead of Brick Break on this Pokemon. But we're going to be able to do like 39%. That's not too bad, as they're going to rest it off. Are they Chesto Berry? Yes, they are. So a little bit annoying for me, especially because they can have like Fire Punch or something to be able to take me out. But we're going to Brick Break them again, just get them in range of the other Pokemon on my team. They do Fire Punch, luckily no burn, so we're going to be able to chip them down a little bit more. So we Swords Dance here. If they chose to switch out into potentially Crobat, then I'd be able to just destroy it with an Ice Shard and be in a really good spot, force Weavile to come in, take the rocks, and take a nice Ice Shard from us. So that's why I went for that. They end up going for a mid-ground Toxic. They hit it. We're totally fine, though, because I don't mind it at all. We get to go Haxorus and basically just claim a KO here. They have no switch-ins to Dragon Claw. That Pokemon just gets absolutely clobbered. They get to go out to their own Druddigon here. I don't know why they wouldn't go Weavile here. Maybe they didn't think that they would always kill me, or they thought that I could be Scarfed and that Ice Shard wouldn't kill, because I have been Scarfed in all the other weeks. So we're going to go out to this Pokemon. They're going to get some chip with the Rough Skin on this Pokemon anyways. They're also Rocky Helmet, so we're super in Ice Shard range now. But I think that was a huge misplay by them since we are banded. But they go out to this. They're going to Ice Shard. Will take me out, but I'm in a pretty decent spot with a Blastoise. They are a Life Orb as well, which is nice, getting some extra chip for me. But we go Scald here. They're going to Night Slash crit. Super duper matters, because we always live that. We even lived most crits, I think. Even like very little defense investment. But now it's down to Basculin. If they're Giga Drain on Crobat, it's really tough for me to win here. But we're Scarf Waterfall, so We'll see what happens. They go Crobat. They're at 50%. This is a roll if they are like no HP to knock them out with Waterfall here, and we end up getting it. So we prevail anyways. I mean, this was a pretty hacksy battle. I mean, especially nice for me. I got pretty lucky in this whole tour, as you guys have probably seen so far. But, you know, just a nice win for me. Really nice to get another one under my belt. I'm 3-0. My first black and white league. So pretty good start for us. Basculin and ABOMASNOW still have done a ton of work as my low tier Pokemon. But hopefully we can keep it up into the next couple weeks. Now we're into week 4. By the way, my team won week 3. We win a lot of weeks here. We are playing the Biting Bibarrels. There are 2 teams in this tournament that are just trash. One of them is the Biting Bibarrels. And their team definitely looks like... It looks somewhat trash. It actually is not horrible. We have to face Cloyster, which can just Shell Smash and just sweep everyone. They also have like Gliscor and Scizor, which I think are really solid in this format. But yeah, they're just not a good team. They have a lot of players that lose a lot of games. But I can't count them out. I want to try to win as many as possible and try to get our team into the playoffs for this. So I have to take it seriously. But like I said, I already talked about their first 3 Pokemon. They got Rotom Heat. Just a strong pivot into my team, and I have no switch-ins to that Pokemon at all. Like, my best switch-in is like, I don't know, there's not even Assault Vest in this game, so I don't have one, not at all. They also have Slowking, which is also pretty annoying for me to deal with since they do have like Flamethrower on that Pokemon too. Luckily it's slow, but it's also very bulky. They have Scrafty as well, which is annoying because Dragon Dance variants are strong into me. On top of all the other sweepers, we do see another Gem Captain Sceptile because the other team dropped it and this team picked it up, so we have to play it again. But it actually might come this week because it was good into me last time. It's going to be good into me this time. And then Rhydon, which is not good into me at all, I don't think. I think my team just like absolutely demolishes that Pokemon, so there's no chance that that Pokemon comes in this game. But yeah, very, very scary matchup. I mean, I don't have too many answers to a lot of the Pokemon on their team. So we're going to have to try to, you know, do it offensively with all my Choice Scarf Pokemon like I love to run in this tournament, as you will see. First up on my team, we're actually using a Life Orb Sheer Force Nidoking because it's really solid into their really low speed tiers. They only have 3 Pokemon that actually outrun this Nidoking, and we just destroy everything on their team. Sludge Wave, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam just absolutely cooks them. Of the Pokemon that are faster than me, only like like Ground Gem, Earthquake Sceptile knocks me out, and Earthquake Gliscor knocks me out. I don't think we die unless they're like Specs Overheat on the Rotom Heat, so that's totally fine, and we just hit them very, very hard with all of our moves. We also have Choice Scarf Raikou here. It's my only way to really deal with a Shell Smash Cloyster if they've already Shell Smashed, because we're going to be able to outspeed it. It's also just strong in this game as well once the Gliscor is gone or if it doesn't even show up. Thunderbolt plus T-Bolt is just super free into them, especially because I don't think the Rhydon will be there. We also have a Shadow Ball and Extra Sensory as well, just as some extra coverage. Next up is Akaberry Ferrothorn, which is good to be able to eat up one hit from the Rotom. But we have Giga Drain on this set because it should be able to beat the Cloyster. It one-shots it, especially if they have one special defense drop from the Shell Smash. But even without it, if there's just a little bit of chip damage on it, then we just totally one-shot them because they're super horrible special defense. It's also just, you know, kind of solid in this game in general. We've got Leech Seed, Stealth Rock, and T-Wave as well on this Pokemon, just to be annoying for them. Stealth Rocks are really nice just to limit the Rotom and how much that thing can come in. I also like it's nice to limit the Cloyster as well, although I don't think they're going to be a spinning set. If they are, then we just make sure that they can't spin forever. And then on the other side of the team, we're actually bringing a Dragon... Well, no, we're not even Dragon Dance on Haxorus, but we are set up. We're Swords Dance, since we have a great speed tier to outrun everything except for the Sceptile that cannot one-shot me. But once we get a Swords Dance up, we actually just win the game. They can potentially like Ice Shard Cloyster plus hit me with Sceptile, potentially. Or they have like Scarfers, they have Bullet Punch, you know. But we basically just win the game with Dragon Claw plus Earthquake. X-Scissor is also good into the Slowking for a little bit of extra damage and the Sceptile. We also have Choice Scarf, Blastoise, again with Water Spout, just because they only have one resist on the team. Sceptile is not a real resist to that move. Neither is Cloyster, because Cloyster gets one shot by it. But Slowking is the only thing that can actually resist it. It is an annoying Pokemon for me to deal with, but if I catch the switch in with a Toxic or a Signal Beam, then we're chilling and in a pretty good spot anyways. And last up, we are Choice Scarf Final Gambit Basculin again. Really solid in the matchup to try to get rid of like Slowking, try to get rid of Rotom, try to get rid of Gliscor, try to get rid of Scizor. I mean, if I get any of those 4 Pokemon off the board, then I feel really solid in the chance for me to win. But this matchup, I mean, definitely not in my favor at all. I do definitely have the tools for it, but it's not going to be an easy one. I guess none of these have been. No draft game is really easy, but I do feel like this one is on the harder side for us. Luckily, I don't think the Biting Bibarrels have a history of winning, so hopefully we can continue to make them lose. Getting into team preview, I'm just incredibly surprised to see no Slowking. Makes sense to not see Rhydon, obviously, but I thought they might want to not bring like the Gliscor or Scrafty instead. Even the Sceptile, although I think that Pokemon was pretty good into me. But now Blastoise just looks insane versus them. As soon as the Sceptile is gone, or if it's weakened, we just sweep them basically with Water Spout. So we're in a good spot. We're going to start this up. They're going to lead with the Gliscor. We're just going to lead with Blastoise, and we just get a free kill here. I mean, I think I'm at a good spot here. I don't think there's basically anything they can do besides have like a Pasho Berry or switch hard into Sceptile and potentially get to it KO'd by it anyways. They're going to go hard Sceptile. Water Spout does 38, so they have some HP investment, I think. Or maybe I'm just not as strong as I think I am. But that's a lot of damage. They can never switch in again, so if we ever get another opportunity, then it definitely is a free KO. But we're going to hard swap straight out to our Choice Scarf Raikou. On the Earthquake Ground Gem, they just kill me. Like, what? Why would you press that? Like, I don't know. I just don't get that press very much. Like, Ground Gem boosted, I guess it maybe hits Ferrothorn a little bit, Nidoking. But they snipe my Raikou. I mean, it works. We're going to go out to Ferrothorn. They're going to Drain Punch. Doesn't do too much, especially after the Iron Barbs. And we're just going to get a T-Wave off. So now we're really strong with Haxorus. It just absolutely destroys them now as well. But we're going to get our Stealth Rocks up here. They're going to get fully paralyzed. Very nice for us. And go hard Gliscor, which is totally fine. We're going to get a Giga Drain off, which does basically nothing versus that Pokemon. They're going to get their Toxic up because their Toxic Heal makes sense. We're going to Leech Seed off as they get their Stealth Rocks up. We do have Blastoise, but we're not Spin on it. So it's a little bit annoying, but my team doesn't care that much about the rocks being up. We're not switching off too much. They're going to knock off my Occa Berry, which isn't the end of the world. I do predict them to switch into the Rotom there. And in Pokemon Black and White, you can paralyze the electric types. But I'm going to send it off again because I pressed it once. They're going to think that they can freely go Rotom because they're not going to know that I can paralyze an electric type in this game. There's no way that they know. So they switch out, and they switch out to Rotom Heat. They're going to take that 25%. They're going to get T-Waved, and they're going to get parried. So I just, I knew it. I knew it. And in the chat here it says, you can para electric types? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Yeah, that's the Biting Bibarrels for you. We go hard Haxorus here. Fire move makes so much sense. That is Specs Overheat. Does 75% of my Haxorus. Still in a fine spot here. Means we didn't sack that Pokemon, but now we have to sack it. We basically just, get a really hard hit off on their team. Gliscor is going to switch in, and it does not take 2 Dragon Claws ever. I mean, that does 38%, even if they want to protect after they get like another 12% back or something like that. They're at 31, so they easily die. They get a double protect, though, because of course they do. And that's just the luck of the game. It is what it is. We're going to Dragon Claw, bring them down to 1% so we don't get the rolls. So just a bad spot for me. But now Blastoise, I mean, it just comes in and it gets a kill. I mean, there's nothing more to say about it. We're going to get it. We're going to Water Spout. They're going to go Sceptile. They're at 50%. We're doing just a little bit less since we took the Stealth Rock damage. But I'm just going to go for it. If they get fully paralyzed or if we get a crit, then we knock them out anyways. And we get that crit, which is on par. I mean, we missed out the roll versus the double protect on Gliscor. I feel like this is just more than needed from us. But they're going to go out to Scizor now. They're still going to take a lot of damage. They do Bullet Punch, and it does a ton. Water Spout still does 43% to them. But obviously, if I Water Spout them again, it's going to put me in a little bit of a worse spot because they're going to hit me, and yeah, it's not going to be the best. So we're going to go out to Ferrothorn, make sure they take a little bit of Iron Barb's damage from the Bullet Punch. And they're going to go hard out to Rotom Heat, take another 25% as we're going to get a little bit of HP back with the Leech Seed, now bringing it so they can only ever switch out one more time. We are going to Giga Drain on this turn. hoping for a full para, but also kind of just sacking this Pokemon. As they click Trick, so they give us a Choice Specs, and at this point they're getting sapped by Leech Seed, and I'm Choice Specs with Giga Drain versus their team. Scizor is really low. Cloyster will get one shot. This Rotom is incredibly low. That Giga Drain did 10% without the Specs, and they have Scrafty. I think I can just sweep them with a Specs Ferrothorn, right? Like, Ferrothorn just looks really, really strong here. We are going to switch out on the Scrafty because they can just hit me with Drain Punch, as they do. We are max HP, so it doesn't do too much. We Waterfall in the Scrafty. Drain Punch is going to 2-hit KO me. And this is a bad spot because they just got a lot of health back, and they get a Moxie boost. So I'm in a horrible spot. We're going to go out to Blastoise here and be able to click Scald, try to get a burn. We don't get one. We get crit, so we die. We wouldn't have died without the crit, and now they're +2, and I'm just in a bad spot. Nidoking comes out here, hoping to be able to live anything that it goes for, but they show to be Scarf Drain Punch. So, phew, we dodged a bullet there. They choose to sack the Scrafty instead of switching out, which I think was a mistake. I think they should have went Scizor there. This is why I Flamethrowered, but, you know, good spot. And now they have Cloyster out. Even if this Pokemon decides to Shell Smash here, I should be fine because, I mean, we have Ferrothorn that should be able to eat one hit, but they're just slower than me. Like, they are just straight up slower. They're not Scarfed or anything. They didn't click Ice Shard, which they should have, but they just let us T-Bolt and knock them out in one shot. And now Scizor comes out here. They can Bullet Punch, take out the Nidoking, but we have Specs, Ferrothorn in the back. They're at 21%, but they have to Bullet Punch into me. They're going to take Iron Barbs. And we leave them on 1% with Giga Drain. It's so funny. But they're going to Bullet Punch again, knock themselves out with Iron Barbs. So Specs, Giga Drain, Ferrothorn actually put in like a ton of work. I mean, it's just insanely crazy. I thought it was kind of like a memeing to bring Giga Drain, Ferrothorn, but it ended up just being insanely good in this game. I am glad that they didn't bring, you know, what they didn't bring. But even if they like, you know, took Scrafty off the bench and put in Slowking, the Specs Ferrothorn would have put in even more work. Just a crazy Pokemon to have on my team. We ended up winning this, so Sean DePaul, my team is 4-0 at this point. I'm 4-0. A lot of really close games, a lot of 1-0s so far, but, you know, we've been winning, and we're 4-0 in Black and White, top of the Black and White division so far. Just feeling the best. I mean, we fight the Fast Furts next week, which are the worst team, the team that are really, really bad. They did not win a single set the entire season, so I'll spoil that for you. Pretty bad team, so hopefully we can get another win versus them. It'll be a little bit embarrassing if we ended up losing. It would have also been really embarrassing if we lost to the Biting Bibarels too, though. Now we're in week 5, sitting at 4-0 so far, and we're facing the Fast Furts. This is finally a matchup that I actually feel like I have a good matchup into. They do have a pretty scary team with a Lando Incarnate, which just destroys everything. Like, nothing really wants to take the hits, but I do deal with it offensively pretty well with Blastoise, ABOMASNOW, Basculin, even like Weather Ball Raikou is really strong if I get the Hail Up versus them. So it's pretty solid. And I do have like Ferrothorn that should be able to live any one hit, especially if we are Choppleberry. So not too bad. Dragon Dance Haxorus is insanely good in this game because that Clefable is not Fairy, it's just a normal type. But it is still annoying. They have a really good spinner in Tentacruel. They have Bisharp, which is really strong with Sucker Punch, Mind Games. Conkeldurr just hits like an absolute truck versus my team. We don't have switch-ins to that, really. Gem Captain Chandelure is really strong, being able to Grass Gem Energy Ball to hit my my spinner, my Blastoise. So I can't really defensively deal with that Pokemon. They also have a Rotom Mow, which is strong enemy, and then Sableye, which is just a nice Prankster Pokemon. I think Prankster Sableye should totally come in this game. Potentially leave, like, I don't even know, maybe Bisharp plus Clefable off. Maybe Rotom Mow off as well. It would be solid for them. I do think that Sableye should probably come just because I do have a lot of setup options. Or like just Will-O-Wisping my team is really strong as well. But I have a lot of options versus them. And hopefully we're going to be able to come out with a W in this week. First up this week is the cooked win con that I brought. Lando T, faster than basically everything important on their team. Besides the Tentacruel, which probably will run some sort of non-speedy set. And then the Landorus Incarnate. We were Calm Mind, Sludge Wave, Earth Power substitute with a special set. Really, really fun one. We can substitute on like the Sableye. We can substitute on like Clefable. Potentially like the Rotom Mow as well. And just click Calm Mind versus their team. They have no answers for me. Even if I just get to like +1. Their team gets cooked by Sludge Wave plus Earth Power. The only thing that actually resists those two moves is the Landorus on their side, and at that point they will not be able to break my sub really, because I'm assuming they'll be just fully special versus me. Looks really strong to be special. Even if they're like Rock Slide or something, we can get a lot of damage off on it, and if we get it chipped down or knocked out earlier in the game, then my Lando T just absolutely blows through their entire team. We are also bringing Choice Banded Ferrothorn, mostly just so we can click Explosion versus them, but it's just really strong. I think that they will probably bring like Flame Charge on the Chandelure since it's so strong into me. So if I lead this into Flame Charge Chandelure, I'm just clicking Payback and I'm going to one-shot it if they click Flame Charge into me. Who knows if they're actually going to bring that. It would be crazy. But we destroy Clefable. We're not Gyro Ball. Power Whip destroys that Pokemon. Also destroys basically everything on their team. They don't have a good resist. Rotom and Bisharp take a ton of damage. Even Chandelure takes a lot. But if they choose to like burn me with a Rotom or Clefable paralyzes me, we can click Facade into their team as well. We also actually finally have Dragon Dance Haxorus in this game. Mold Breaker as well. I don't really think that does too much besides hit through the Levitate on the Rotom. I guess it gets through the Unaware on Clef, which is really nice. But Dragon Claw, Superpower, and Facade, just, really strong moves into their team. Superpower should be able to take out the Clefable. I think we just need +1 for that, even if they're pretty physically bulky. But it also just destroys the Bisharp as well. My fourth Mon on the team is Raikou. Just looks pretty strong into them being the fastest thing on the field. I have a lot of HP investment on this Pokemon just so I can, take some hits from like, basically everything on their team except for the Landorus. We have Volt Switch, Toxic Protect, Magnet Rise. It's just nice to Toxic Stall out that Landorus. If we end up getting the Magnet Rise off, it can't really touch us at all, so we just Toxic that thing, make sure we can wear it down, and it really helps my WinCon Landorus in the end game for me. But Volt Switch is just basically very, very free against their team for me. We also have a physically, kind of like a mixed defensive Blastoise, mostly physically though, which helps me with the Bisharp and the Conch. Scald, Toxic, Rapid Spin, Roar, just very, very basic. Don't want to have to deal with like T-Spikes or Stealth Rocks from their side, so just nice to have this Pokemon. And speaking of not dealing with T-Spikes, we have Nidoking here. Grounded Poison is important versus Tentacruel, but also it's just really strong with a decent speed tier that outruns everything that's below the Rotom Mow, which is most of their team. And Earth Power, Ice Beam, Stealth Rock, and Substitute, just strong versus their team. Being able to get up the rocks is nice to be able to chip them down, because I do anticipate a lot of switching in this matchup. But Substitute is good as well, just to catch switches, make sure I don't have to predict every single time. Since we have Earth Power or Ice Beam for the Landorus, I don't really want to have to be predicting all the time. But just a solid Pokemon in this game, basically just max special attack and max speed. Looking at team preview, really not what I expected here versus the Fast Furts. They leave the Tentacruel and the Sableye on the bench. Makes my setup opportunities just insane versus them. So I can't get Will-O-Wisp on the Haxorus, which is really nice. No Encore or anything like that for my other setup options. Just really strong versus their entire team. But we're going to start this off. I lead with my Choice Banded Ferrothorn into Landorus. Basically, Power Whip just gets a free kill here. If they want to go hard Chandelure, I mean, so be it. We're going to get a lot of damage off on that Pokemon anyways. Potentially to a KO if they do want to end up being like a Flame Charge set. That I do think it's funny here. But we're just going to go for Power Whip. They're going to switch into physically defensive Clefable and take 95%. Maybe not physically defensive, but that's a Clefable taking 95% to a Ferrothorn's Power Whip. That's insane. But they can obviously have Flamethrower, so we're going to have to switch out. But yeah, that's a crazy amount of damage. We go hard Nidoking, as they do a lot, so yeah, it seems like they might be a little bit offensive. But we're just going to get our rocks up versus them, which means the Clefable can never come back in. I guess it has Magic Guard. But it's still really, I guess it might not have Magic Guard. But it still just can't really come back in because it just dies to everything on my team. We outrun it with everything except for the Ferrothorn, I think. Maybe the Blastoise as well. I don't know, it really doesn't matter. But Conch comes in and we just have a really hard time dealing with this Pokemon, so I just am going to have to get some damage on it. We do 72% with that Sheer Force, Life Orb boosted Earth Power, and I'm totally fine trading like that. We can now just go hard Landorus. I could predict here if I really wanted to, going for a substitute basically, because I know they have Ice Punch, but we can also just take them out with an Earth Power, which is basically unresisted. They can switch into either their Torn or their Landorus or their Rotom-Mow, but I have ways to deal with both of those Pokemon. We also get an Intimidate off, but they're just going to let it go down to an Earth Power, which is great for me because that Pokemon just absolutely bodied my entire team. They're going to go out to their own Landorus, take a little bit of hazard damage as we go out to Blastoise as they set up their own hazards. So good play by them. I just want to get a Toxic on this thing before we end up setting up Calm Minds, and I don't even know if it's physical or special. Even still with this U-turn damage, it kind of seems like mixed-ish, so gives me mixed vibes on whether I should actually set up with mine yet. But they're going to go out to their Clef. They do show to be Magic Guard, which is great for us because we get a free spin-off, but they do end up living, and they can go Bisharp this turn. Totally fine. We're just going to throw off a Scald. No burn, which is okay, but it's not the end of the world. This Pokemon is really scary if it clicks Sword Stance versus me right now, though, since we don't have defense on our Ferrothorn. But they're going to Sword Stance, we're just going to roar them out, which is great for me. Brings out the worst possible Pokemon in the Rotom, but it's still just good to not be getting swept by Bisharp. But we're at full health. We're actually at a solid spot. We're just going to go a hard Ferrothorn. Even if they hit that Wisp, we can always just click Facade versus their team and be really strong. But unfortunate miss for them for sure at that point. But we're going to double back out into Raikou, a Pokemon that does not care about its physical attack as well. And we can freely throw off Toxic versus their team. I feel like it makes a lot of sense for either of them to stay in and get like a Slow Volt switch off, or for them to go Landorus, predicting an electric move since we don't have very much coverage in this generation. So they do end up going Landorus. They're going to take some Rocks damage. We're going to get the Toxic off, and we're just in a great spot at this point. Just in a really good one. I mean, now we can beat it with Landorus. We're going to protect as they go for Earth Power. So they're going to take a little bit more damage. They're down to 58. We can easily stall this Pokemon out. As we Magnet Rise, just trying to stall out another turn, but they do end up just U-turning out. Totally fine with me. It's not a big deal. So they go out to this Bisharp, which is still really scary for my team to deal with. I basically just have to hit this Pokemon because when they go for Sword Stance, it's really tough. We're going to go out to our Blastoise. They're going to rock the Taunt here, so we can't roar them out. We're just going to have to try to 1v1 them with Rapid Spin or with Scald. Try to get burns. Hope that we're at good enough HP to be able to live and do enough damage versus them. As they sucker, it does 51 versus me. And they're just barely going to be outside of range. Maybe it's a range at this point, but we did 21 and 23 with Scald. So we're in a really tough spot. But their Sucker Punch 51 or 55. It's definitely a roll. And the taunt ends. We are just going to Scald them though, as they go for Night Slash. Doesn't end up taking me out here, which is great for me. And now they can Sucker Punch and take me out if they really want to. So they're going to Sucker Punch as we click Roar. So just showing off a little bit there. Great turn for me as we get to knock out the Clef now that we drag in and get a little bit of extra recovery. Which is just great for me. We bring in the Rotom-Mow now, and we're in a good spot. I mean, I have the Landorus that's at full HP. There's no rocks on my side or anything. Their Landorus is toxic. The Rotom-Mow is getting a little bit of chip on it. Bisharp's basically dead, and Chandelure is going to take 25% whenever it switches in. Obviously, on my side, this Blastoise is really low. Raikou is pretty low, but we have 3 Pokemon that are max HP and just hit their team incredibly hard. We're going to hard swap out to Raikou. I don't need that Pokemon anymore, as they do trick me a Choice Scarf, which is like bad for me, but it's also totally fine. Doesn't matter basically at all. Leftovers is annoying for them to have, as they're going to heal themselves up, but we still beat them with Landorus every time. And now we cannot get tricked a Choice Scarf on that Pokemon, so that's good. But they're going to go hard Landorus, taking some extra damage on Volt Switch. That's why I didn't bother predicting. I mean, if they switch, then they're just getting chipped, and we don't have to deal with that Pokemon much more, which is totally fine. We're just going to go hard to our Lando on what we assume is going to be Earth Power. They can't really hit me that hard anyways, unless they wanted to click, like, you know, Rock Slide or something like that. But they're going to U-turn out here. Doesn't do very much damage, and they go out to their Rotom-Mow, try to Will-O-Wisp me. We get that sub up, so they cannot do that. They can try to U-turn me or try to Leaf Storm me, do anything like that, but we're going to Calm Mind in their face, and we're just in a really good spot now. Basically, we just should be able to win the game here. They're going to go Bisharp, which is a good play by them on our substitute here. So they're going to be able to, to break it with a Sucker Punch here. I could have tried to go for a Calm Mind, but I didn't think it was worth it at all. We're still at a pretty good amount of health, 69%, as the Chandelure comes in, and they're on a balloon, which is great for them, being able to not just straight up die to Earth Power here. So we have to click Sludge Wave versus them. Does a good chunk, and they're going to Flame Charge me. So they did actually have Flame Charge on this Pokemon. Isn't that crazy? I really did. I prepped about this. I definitely talked to my team about Flame Charge Chandelure actually being really good in this game. And now it's scary, because we're going to be back at like 60-ish%, but they do a lot of damage to me as they miss a Fire Blast. It wouldn't have knocked me out since I'm +1 special defense, but if they crit me, I could have just lost the game. I definitely could have, especially if Haxorus would have died. I don't know if it would have. But we crit them back, of course. It's just tough. But we would never have died anyways, so that was just fine. They're going to Sludge Bomb me with their Landorus, get the poison, which is annoying on my substitute. But we should still be able to win this game no matter what. Basically, just, we don't die to Sludge Bomb anyways. We Sludge Wave them, and then the Rotom comes in. It's getting lowered anyways from the Stealth Rocks. We're +1 special attack on this Lando, and we just knock them out with the Sludge Wave. Huge win. Actually, a big win for me now, since all the other ones had been like really low, like 1-0s, stuff like that. We get a nice 5-0 win. My team, I think we absolutely just swept them. Destroyed them. That's just, what we do against the Fast Birds. Really nice win for me, 5-0 in my first Pokemon Black and White League. I'm gonna say every single time, it's really impressive to be 5-0. Decent differential now that I beat them like that against a lot of pretty good players, especially towards the beginning of the season. I played a lot of really good players in weeks 1 and week 2, especially week 3 as well was tough for me. But yeah, we're coming out with wins in all of this. Hopefully we can do it. We have 2 more weeks against 2 really tough teams still. We kind of had a tough start and like a very easy middle, but the end is going to be really tough. And if we do end up winning those 2, then we're going to go to the playoffs and have semis and finals if we end up making it there. So hopefully we're going to be able to get that far and maybe keep up our undefeated season. Going into week 6, we are chilling at 5-0. Our whole team is 5-0. Top of the league so far. Basically confirmed a playoff spot. It could be a little bit dicey because there are a lot of teams that are chilling in that the same little range, being like 1 or 2 losses. So if we lose out, we could potentially miss, but I mean the odds of that are very, very slim at this point. But the team that we are facing is the agency here, and they have a pretty scary team for Black and White. Mostly that Alakazam on their side. 120 base speed outspeeds my entire team, and then Life Orb, Sheer Force, just like Psychic, just absolutely clobbers my team. Also has Focus Blast for my Ferrothorn, so I don't have great switch-ins to that. It can run Energy Ball, which has Blastoise as well, which would be like my best special wall for that. So it's a horrible matchup in that way. The rest of it's actually pretty solid. Jirachi I don't think is too good into my team, even though it can click Fire Punch or Ice Punch into my Landorus or Ferrothorn. They have Terrakion, which is scary, but not too bad. I think I should be able to deal with it with my Landorus. They have Hydreigon, which hits like an absolute truck. It has flamethrower coverage for my ABOMASNOW and for Ferrothorn, but offensively I take care of it pretty decently. Eradicate is there as a gem captain, which actually does make a decent bit of sense into my team. It does have Flame Wheel, so like Fire Gem Flame Wheel is pretty solid. They have Arcanine as their other gem captain, which is pretty good here as well as a defensive Pokemon, I think, but offensively I could also see them trying to bring it. Jellicent, if they're worried about Basculin or Blastoise, they probably just bring it. But I don't know. I think they probably leave that and the Eradicate off. Because they have the Donphan as well, which they need the spinner in this game, even though it's not like the best into me. I think they just need the spinner because of the amount of hazard threat that we have with Ferrothorn plus Landorus in this game. My team for this week starts out with Ferrothorn here. Decided to go no hazards on this Pokemon. I just don't think I need them in the game. They are really threatening and it might force the Donphan to come, but I don't mind that at all. Or Gyroball, knockoff Toxic and Protect, very specially defensive, trying to be able to take a hit from that Alakazam, hopefully. Also, the Hydreigon, we can take hits that are not Flamethrower. pretty well. And then Gyro Ball is really strong versus their team into everything but Arcanine, really. We have Knockoff as well, so if we get rid of the Life Orb on Alakazam, we're in a great spot. And Toxic Protect is just solid to beat down. The Jellicent beats down the Arcanine, potentially if we catch it on a switch, beats down the Donphan for sure. And just a solid Pokemon into the team. Next up, we have a Leftovers Mold Breaker Haxorus with a Dragon Dance set. Once we get Dragon Dance up, we're faster than the entire team, and we basically just one-shot everything except for the stupid Donphan. But if we get that chip down or Toxic to a Ferrothorn, then we're in a good spot. But we also have Sub, just so we can't get like Will-O-Wisp by the Jellicent or by the Arcanine. We could always, catch them with that. Maybe like a T-Wave on Jirachi or something like that and just set up all over their face. Next up is Choice Scarf Landorus. I have to deal with the Alakazam offensively in some way, and Choice Scarf Landorus does that job very, very well. Just clicks U-turn and probably one-shots it because it's just so frail. Earthquake is also really, really strong in this game, except for the Donphan. And we have Superpower for like the Terrakion or the, Hydreigon. Depends on what we want to be clicking. And then we have Explosion as well, which can probably trade 1-for-1 with something like Arcanine or Hydreigon if we really, really need to click it in this game. Landorus isn't our only Scarfer though, as we have Choice Scarf Nidoking here. Sheer Force, Sludge Wave, Earth Power, it just hits really hard versus their team. We should be able to try to revenge kill the Alakazam, and if they think that they've snuffed out their one Choice Scarfer with Landorus, then we're going to be able to catch them off guard and hopefully just be able to take out their team pretty easily with just great coverage. I mean, the Earth Power is really all we need once that Hydreigon goes down, and it basically 6-0s their whole team. We also do have Toxic Spikes, especially if they don't bring the Donphan or if it goes home early. But the T-Spikes are really nice just for limiting the amount of times that like Jellicent and Arcanine can come into the game. We also have a Leftovers Raikou here. Volt Switch, Toxic Protect, and Signal Beam. Signal Beam catches that Hydreigon, and we are faster than it, so we don't have to worry. But Toxic Protect is good for the Jellicent, good for the Donphan, good for the Arcanine, just, normal stuff. Volt Switch gives us fast pivoting options out to like Ferrothorn or my last Pokemon, which is a Blastoise here. Calm Nature, Max Spadef to take on that Alakazam as well as possible. But our set doesn't really take on Alakazam too well. Toxic Protect, which doesn't care if they're Magic Guard. We have Scald, which doesn't hit them too hard, but it's a solid stab versus their team. And then Refresh, just so we can't get Toxic by the Jellicent or Arcanine, or like T-Waved by them or something like that. Going into team preview, we do see no Jellicent, no Raticate as well, so kind of what I expected. I also could have saw Jellicent come here over like Arcanine or Donphan or anything like that if they really just were afraid of the Blastoise being offensive, or Basculin, but I guess they didn't respect it, which, good prep by them, because I didn't bring it this week. They're going to lead off with the Arcanine, we lead with the Ferrothorn, so pretty bad lead for me. They show to be Intimidate, which makes a lot of sense, probably more of a defensive Pokemon in this game, but I don't have a Fire type anyway, so Arcanine should always have just been Intimidate. But, they see Air Balloon, which is quite interesting. We're going to need to break that with like a U-turn from Landorus before we're able to do much work with Nidoking or Landorus, or even the Haxorus has a really tough time dealing with it when there's a balloon on this Pokemon. My switch is very obvious here. I have to go out to Land OT, get an Intimidate off on them, but they burn me with Will-O-Wisp. Really tough for me this early to get burned here, but I do have a free U-turn versus their team. They don't actually switch in too well. If the Donphan wants to come in, then I get like potential hazards with Ferrothorn. They would let that in, or just go Blastoise and throw off Scald versus their team, which they don't have a good switch into at all. So they're going to switch out to Hydreigon here, pretty aggressive. We're going to do 71% to them on a critical hit U-turn. Really nice for me. Even without a crit, would have been doing a lot of damage to them, putting them in range of a lot of other things on my team. But we're going to go out to Raikou here. We have Signal Beam, so we should be able to take this thing out. And they don't expect it. We just hit him with the Signal Beam, and they die. Pretty sure it would have died even without the crit, so no worries there. They're going to go out to Alakazam, double out to Arcanine, trying to catch my switch, as we're just going to Signal Beam that Pokemon. We get another big crit, doesn't really do too much versus them, but we're going to be able to break the balloon, which is what's really important here. I don't really know why they went Alakazam and doubled out, maybe just like scouting out for Scarf or Specs or something like that, which we are not. We're just going to Volt Switch out against this Arcanine, get a ton of damage, go back out to Land OT. Worst thing they could do is just hit me. They do Morning Sun, which is fine, but at this point they have no immunity or even resist for a ground type move. It just kind of destroys their team. If I was Earth Power here, it would be in a great spot, but I unfortunately am not. I'm just clicking EQ versus their entire team. They're going to go Dawn Fan. They're going to take 17%, not too much. You get to see that there are no leftovers on this item, which is pretty nice for me. As they set up their rocks and go hard Alakazam, we're going to get a little bit of chip damage off on this thing, break a potential Sash if they are that sort of set, and go out to our specially defensive Ferrothorn on their Calm Mind. So now this is really scary. This thing is +1, so it doesn't actually die to Nidoking, I don't think, anymore. It probably just OHKOs me if they click Focus Blast here, but I think my Burn Landorus should probably be able to take it out even with U-Turn, even though we're burned. Really tough here, but I mean, Ferrothorn, we're just going to sack this Pokemon off easily. It just like straight up dies. If we go Landorus here, we can at least get a lot of chip damage off with a U-Turn here, as they're going to go hard out to Dawn Fan. Totally fine. They're going to show to be Rocky Helmet, which makes a lot of sense. So we get another free switch into Blastoise, and they can never really like make the hard Zam play ever again, which is great for me. They're going to make the Jirachi play here. We're just going to go for the Scald. No burn. They show to be leftovers. I mean, we're leftovers as well. And they're just going to Ancient Power, like going for the 20% boost. I guess it makes sense. It's really, really strong if it ends up getting that boost into me. Could just win, but I think maybe Raikou would be okay into it. I would probably even live with Haxorus and be able to set up a Dragon Dance or something in their face. But we Scald again, no burn. We're just going to trade these back and forth for a couple turns. Apparently they are Wish Jirachi. They're just not clicking it, because we talked after the battle and they just decide to not be smart here. They get a crit before they get the Ancient Power Omni Boost, which is pretty funny. But no burns for us, nothing like that. We have the potential like secret covert cloak. That's just what it is. When we take them out, we 1v1 them with Blastoise, so they just like very much threw that Pokemon away. Now they go Alakazam. We're going to go hard out to Landorus if they want to set up a Calm Mind or Recover. Then we can punish them. So they go for a Substitute, which also we punish pretty hard with this Choice Scarf Pokemon here. The play for me for sure is to just click Explosion here. I just don't want them to have a Substitute. If they have a Substitute up, they might just win the game. Potentially we could go Raikou, break it with Signal Beam, and then be okay, but it's really tough. We're just going to Explode on this Pokemon here. I don't want them to just stall me out. As they do Psychic, I think that was the genuinely wrong play that turn, because I can't like break their sub and hit them. They should either have always clicked sub or always clicked Calm Mind on that turn. But I'm happy with that. We get to go out to our Choice Scarf Nidoking here, and they're going to withdraw, go out to Arcanine, which I think is fine, but we just click Earth Power versus their team. And what their best switch in is this Dawn Fan, which does not die just yet, but Blastoise gets to come in for free. We eat up an Earthquake, we eat up an Ice Shard from them. We're just going to be able to get that chip damage. And now look at their team and then look at Nidoking clicking Earth Power. They have a Terrakion and they have an Alakazam. A little bit worried about Choice Scarf Terrakion for sure. That's why I'm not just going straight out to it. We're going Haxorus here. And we're just going to see Earthquake come off from that Pokemon. We're just going to hit them. We actually don't even knock them out. So probably a bad play by me to just click Earthquake there, but not the end of the world. I do think that they are Choice Scarfed in this scenario, so they might be able to sweep me. We get to go out to Raikou here, but after a Protect, we get some leftovers recovery back, and then we always live a Choice Scarfed Earthquake, which is totally fine, but they're not even Choice Scarfed. So, I mean, I just sacked a bunch of differential for nothing. Could have just gone straight out to Nidoking and won the game on the spot, but Raikou is going to clean it up for me with the Signal Beam Tech. We get a nice 2-0 victory, 6-0. Our team ends up winning this week. I think this was our closest game, or our closest week, maybe 4-3, something like that. But we ended up winning this week, which was really nice. We are locked in the playoffs. I am locked into basically the first seed for Black and White, because I think everyone else at least has one loss. Even if they beat me, I have pretty good differential. I mean, I've been chilling a lot of 1-0, 2-0 wins, but you know, a couple 5-0, 4-0 wins as well under my belt, which makes it really strong. And I'm glad that we are chilling at what, 6-0, my first Black and White league. Finally, we are in the final week, week 7, and we are facing off against the last team, the Moo Moo Milk Enjoyers. They are, I think, 5-1 in Black and White so far. Overall, I think they're what, 4-2 by this point. So a pretty good team, and they are the Kieran Black team that we have a really tough time switching into. Just very solid versus me. And then Iger, he's just a great Black and White player in general. Unfortunately, they decided that they were just going to meme because they were basically locked into the playoffs, which they weren't, but they still ended up making it no matter what, with the other games that ended up happening. But they decided that they were going to let Kung Fu Panda play, the person that we had played in Zero Zone Draft League all that time ago. Maybe played once more after that. Don't really remember. But not a black and white player for sure. It's not like I am. But looking at their team, I mean, it's really scary. They have the best spinner in the format with Starmie for sure. Kieran Black just speaks for itself. Skarmory is a great defensive wall versus my team. It's just really solid versus me. Nita Queen is really nice. They have Miltank, which they've brought to a lot of weeks, so I do expect it. Just a solid defensive Pokemon. Can like Heal Bell up their team, so I can't really Toxic Solid them out. They have Virizion, which is a great gem captain, especially versus me. I feel like it's really strong. They have Magmortar and then Kingdra as well, which is a potent Dragon Dance sweeper. Really scary team for me to face. I'm going to have to handle it. I mean, maybe not as offensively as I have in the past. I don't have anything that just like outspeeds my entire team and just completely sweeps me like Alex Sam last week did. So I'm going to run a little bit of a bulkier team this week. We are starting off strong with a Bulk Up, Smackdown, Earthquake, Substitute, Landorus set. This can beat Skarmory 1v1 if they're not Iron Defense. Even if they are, we actually just do solid damage to them, being able to smack them down in Earthquake. Especially, I think we can probably get up to +6 pretty well. With our defense investment at +1, we don't get a sub broken by Brave Bird if they're not invested at all. So just a really solid Pokemon. And outspeeds a lot of their team, puts on a ton of offensive pressure versus them, especially if we were able to get like +1 or +2 with the Bulk Up. We also have a fully Spadef Ferrothorn set here. We just destroy their team, basically. Like we can switch in decently well to the Kieran Black. I'm assuming it's going to be special. Even if it's physical, it's not that big of a deal for us. We have dual hazards on here with Spike, Stealth Rocks, Protect as well to get some HP back, and then Knock Off, just to knock off some items on their team. We also have a fully specially defensive Blastoise here that can take on Kieran Black decently well if they're special, with Protect, Toxic, Whirlpool, and Surf. With Whirlpool and Toxic, I should be able to Toxic Stall something like the Starmie if they're not running T-Bolt. I can potentially stall out the Miltank as well, which is basically the more important Pokemon to stall out here, just so they can't infinitely be really annoying and just, they can wall a lot of stuff with that Miltank. Just want to Toxic Stall it down with this Pokemon. We are also rocking a Raikou here, just max speed, max special attack to speed tie that Starmie. Volt Switch plus Discharge is great into their team. We also have Extra Sensory, which hits the Nidoking pretty hard, and then Protect for Leftovers recovery. Next is a Choice Scarf. Nidoking outspeeds their entire team. Flamethrower plus Thunderbolt is really solid versus them, but Earth Power is good too, and if they end up setting up to try to sweep me, or if they have other fast Choice Scarfers, then we have Sucker Punch on here just to do a little bit more damage. And last but not least is going to be Salicberry Haxorus. This is a fun set that I could see myself bringing to playoffs, since Moo Moo is a decent playoff matchup for us. I think the rest of my team really wants to play them at this point. But we have Max Attack, Max Speed, Adamant Nature, Taunt Superpower, Swords Dance, Outrage. We can set up 2 Swords Dances in Skarmory's face, taunt them so they can't Iron Defense or anything like that. And then we one-shot them with Superpower. We should have Mold Breaker so we go through Sturdy, but I am dumb a little bit. But, it is what it is. We just need a little bit of chip damage on them for that. But we one-shot them with Superpower +4, and once that thing's broken, the team is broken wide open. Hopefully we're going to be able to take another win and go for a perfect season. But, it's a format that I've never played before, so we'll see what happens in this battle. On team preview, I'm just really surprised to see no Kingdra, no Nidoqueen. I thought both those Pokemon were really solid. I mean, I just really thought Magmortar was going to sit on the bench, if I'm going to be completely honest. But their team just looks scary. I mean, all the teams look really scary in this format. Let's get right into it. We're going to lead with Raikou being faster than everything on their team, except for this Starmie, and it looks just incredibly strong because look at their team. They have no resistance to the combination of Volt Switch plus Extra Sensory. So we're just going to be able to click for free on this first turn. We're going to Discharge, potentially get a Para, which doesn't do very much to Virizion, so maybe a little bit of an HP invested set. They're going to double back out to Kyurem, which is interesting on my Volt Switch, so we're going to get a little bit of Switch initiative here. We get to go out to Ferrothorn, and we're in a good spot because this Pokemon cannot really touch me too well until they click Hidden Power. That's an illegal move, so we already won on the spot. But I decided I want to play the game out. I think it's pretty funny that they tried that. We're going to try to protect, try to get out of range of Ice Beam here. But we're going to live on 1, which is great. We're going to get a Stealth Rock and a Spike up versus their team because they have a way to spin it with Starmie, but it's not really that easy to spin versus my team. Now we're going to go out to our Nidoking. We're going to get a nice nasty roll. This is like 25% chance to kill with Earth Power. But we get it. Definitely deserved. But brings in the free Virizion because now they see that we're Choice Scarfed. And this Pokemon is very scary for my team, as you'll see in just a second. They're going to click Calm Mind, and my team does not switch into the combination of Calm Mind plus Giga Drain plus Focus Blast on this Pokemon. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to beat this thing. I don't have any great attacks for it. We're just Earthquake, which does 35%, but if they recover their HP all back with Giga Drain, like they're going to do here, we're just not in the best spot. This Pokemon just kicks my butt now that Ferrothorn's gone and we can't like dodge a Focus Blast. They get a nasty roll. I mean, it was going to 2-hit KO me anyways. We're going to go out to Blastoise. We always live 1 Giga Drain. It's not that strong. We're going to land our Toxic, which is great, and we can potentially stall this out with the rest of the Pokemon on my team. Hopefully, they're going to accurately predict and Calm Mind on my Protect, which is totally fine, but they're on a timer now, which is good. We're going to go out to Haxorus here, predicting them to go for Giga Drain, just trying to, you know, make sure I have any chance in the world to stall this Pokemon out. We dodge a Focus Blast, which is really nice, and we just get to click Outrage and take that Pokemon out. Of course, really lucky for me, but I would have been able to stall them out by sacking off the Blastoise and then going out to Nidoking later. Even at 2.5 times special attack, we would have been able to take them out. Really go out to Starmie here. Free Rapid Spin opportunity, but they choose to take out my Haxorus. Don't know if that was the best play for them because the hazards are really tough for them to deal with. I'm taking so much percent on everything. But we just go out to Raikou. Have a 50-50 to win a speed tie here if they are max speed. But they go hard Miltank here, which is fine by me. We throw off a Discharge, just 30% and Paras, which is really important. So I've just been getting lucky. Really nice for me. We're just going to Discharge again into this Pokemon. It's a 2-hit KO from this point, and they get fully paralyzed, so no Milk Drink from them. It's just, you know, karma for them clicking Hidden Power. Next up, they go Magmortar. They're going to do a lot of damage to me because they are Choice Scarfed, but we don't get burned, which is nice, and we get a nice Volt Switch off. We get to go out to Blastoise, and we know they're Choice Scarfed into Fire Blast. They do choose to sack this Pokemon off, which I think is a misplay. Maybe going out to Starmie to potentially Rapid Spin versus my team is a little bit better at that point. But yeah, they're going to go out to Starmie now. Just click Psychic versus me, so they didn't have Thunderbolt, which would have knocked me out. We're just going to get a Toxic off on this Pokemon and just make sure it's on a timer. Can choose to recover up. Although I Protect, they do Thunderbolt this time, so maybe predicting the Nidoking earlier. We're totally fine with that. No recover from them means they are always in range or just like gonna straight up die. And after Life Orb, they will die. And we're left with Raikou and Nidoking versus Skarmory. So this is an easy win for us, especially when their Sturdy is broken. We're gonna hit them with Discharge, and it does knock them out. Wasn't 100% to knock them out there, especially if they were especially defensive, but we do have that Choice Scarf Nidoking with Flamethrower or T-Bolt in the back. So we get another 2 OW. We're going to go 7-0 in the 7 weeks of the regular season here. And after that, no other teams or no other players were undefeated at all. So we ended up winning MVP of the whole entire tournament in a format that I never played, which is really funny. I'd have a couple Pokemon in like the top 10 for Kill Leader. I think Blastoise, Landorus, and Haxorus are all up there. And ABOMASNOW is just outside at number 12. Really strong showing from me here. Just much support to my team. They helped me out a ton with this. I mean, no one really knew what they were doing with Generation 5. A couple of them were in a Generation 5 league at the time. But they really helped me out with the prep. And I just played really offensively, bringing a lot of Scarfers to a lot of battles here, and hopefully they don't catch on in playoffs. But we ended up winning this. This was the deciding battle to win. We ended up winning this one 4-3. So we're going to go into the playoffs undefeated as the number 1 seed. We're going to be able to choose who we fight, and I don't remember who the 4 options are. I think it's like Moo, the Agency, and Black Gold, which are a lot of really tough teams for me to deal with. But I don't even know who we pick. We'll see in just a minute. We probably just go back to back against Moo. I think that's what I remember, which is a tough matchup for me, especially when we're going to play Aicher, who is their actual Gen 5 player and is really good at the game. Going into the playoffs, we decided to take on Moo again. Not really what I wanted to do, but more of what the team wanted to do, which is fine. I think we were most afraid of Black Gould at this point. Even the agency was a little bit tough, so let them fight it out and see who we have to fight in finals. Because the rest of my team, I mean, they felt pretty fine into the matchups in Moo. I have to face probably like the best Generation 5 player in our draft, and a really scary team. And I already showed a couple of my cards, not everything though. We didn't show the Haxorus set, so we're bringing the same thing as you can see there. But I'm also bringing a Magnet Raikou, which I think is really strong in this game. Extra sensory to hit the Nidoqueen, which I do expect to come this time around. It also hits the Virizion pretty well. And then just, you know, Thunderbolt is great into their team. We also have Charge Beam, because if we get to +1, we probably can just win the game. We also have a Sassy ABOMASNOW, so very specially defensive, which can somewhat take on Kyurem. But also takes on Starmie decently well. Protect, Leech Seed, Ice Shard, and just Giga Drain. On the other side of the team, we have a Ferrothorn, another like mixed defensive set, but has a decent amount of Spadef, so we don't get to it KO'd by the Kyurem. It puts us into Custat Berry range, and we can get free spikes and Stealth Rock versus their team. Also, Gyro Ball is just great into them, especially if Skarmory is chipped down. I also have Choice Scarf, Adaptability, Final Gambit, Basculin. We really want to trade with a Skarmory here, and then, you know, it'll obviously have Sturdy, and we can take it out from there. But if we need to use it later, we have Toxic potential for versus their team, which is strong, and then just Waterfall, Aqua Jet. We also have a Choice Scarf Landorus here with Earthquake, Explosion, U-Turn, Superpower. Just really strong versus their team, because I really want to get that Skarmory out of the way, either by baiting it with the Basculin or baiting it with the Haxorus. So this team that they brought is a little bit different this week. They are using the Nidoqueen, which is a little bit annoying, but I see why they would bring it when Raikou just destroyed them last week. Let's get right into the battle. We're just going to start off with our Basculin versus Nidoqueen. Very good lead for us. We could easily throw off Waterfall versus their team, but they have the Skarmory that probably wants to switch in. So this is a dream scenario for me. We just get to trade basically 1-for-1 with the Skarmory, taking it down to Sturdy with our Final Gambit. And that's great for me because this Pokemon is a big threat for my entire team. And basically everything on my team besides the Ferrothorn can easily come in. So we're going to go Raikou here. Extra Sensory is free. We can also just T-Bolt versus them. Do Extra Sensory predicting that Nidoqueen to come out. But, you know, they go Miltank, which is fine. They do show to be max Spadef. But we're going to Volt Switch off. It does so much damage versus them as they Fire Punch into the Ferrothorn. Great read by them. But they're going to take Iron Barb's damage and just be a little bit lower HP at this point. Now they're going to go hard out to Skarmory on the rocks. So another good play, trying to get some extra leftovers and potentially a Roost off on this turn. We're going to go hard out to ABOMASNOW here as we do see Roost come out. Makes a lot of sense coming from them, making sure this Pokemon's back at full, making sure my Basculin actually just did nothing. But with the Hail Up, they can't really do much with their leftovers. We also Leech Seed them down, which is great for us. We're going to go back out to Ferrothorn here, potentially be able to get some extra HP back since we do have the Leech Seed. They try to Defog, but in this generation, Defog doesn't work, so I don't know why they did that. Just a bad bring from them. Makes me think that their Starmie might not be Rapid Spin, so they might not be able to get rid of these hazards, which is really good for me, and we're just going to get some extra HP, chip them down a little bit. They're going to make the play out to Nidoqueen as we set up those spikes, and then a Flamethrower, which seems super obvious from them. So we're going to go hard out to Lando T here. If they clicked Ice Beam there, we would have been in a tough spot, but that does a lot of damage. They're like full offensive, which is tough for us to break. I'm going to double out to Raikou here on the Skarmory switch in. I did think that was basically what they had to go for. But, you know, it was obvious, and if we got that wrong, it could have been the end. But we're going to go for, I think, an electric move here as I switch into Nidoqueen. Yeah, we do go for Charge Beam. Unfortunate for me that they switch in and they show to be Choice Scarf. Definitely should have just swapped out to like ABOMASNOW or even Landorus on that turn. There was no reason to sack my Raikou because it destroys their team, especially with Miltank being at 50%. And if I get a Charge Beam boost, I mean, I basically just win the game. But we're going to go Ferrothorn here. I know that they're Choice, so we're going to get another Spike Up. And they're going to be able to KO me here if they want to, but they're going to swap hard into Starmie. Totally fine by me. We're going to go double out into ABOMASNOW. So potential spin can come from them this time, but we're going to protect just to get some chip. They don't show to spin, so they probably don't have it on this Pokemon. So they're going to crit us with Psychic, which matters a ton for our longevity on this Pokemon. But we get a Giga Drain off, we get a crit back. Didn't matter though. We're gonna get a decent amount of HP back, but we should be closer to like 80% at this point. Now they send in Kyurem. This thing cannot click HP Fire into us, but I'm just gonna protect, try to see what they want to do, as it is going to be Focus Blast. Makes a lot of sense to try to hit Ferrothorn, so we're gonna switch out to Lando T here on what we expect to be Focus Blast. They make a good play and go for Ice Beam. Not the end of the world for me at all. We're gonna go Ferrothorn, who has the Custat Berry at this range and just gets the Gyro Ball off. Perfect that we were exactly at 25% in this scenario. Yeah, I mean, if we weren't, we would just basically be screwed in this game because Kyurem would just clean up. But we had that Custat Berry. Huge tech for me there, saving the game. They're going to go Miltank here. They can knock me out with a Fire Punch if they want to, but then they will also basically be dead to Hail plus Leftovers. So they do actually just straight up die to it. Now, we're scared of Virizion for sure, but we have ABOMASNOW, and if we don't get one shot by this Pokemon, then we're actually in a really good spot because I beat Nidoqueen with Ice Shard, and Skarmory it's tough, but I might be able to beat that Pokemon as well. We're going to throw off a Shard versus Virizion. They live and they go for Calm Mind, so they're going to be just a little bit out of range of an extra Ice Shard here. We're going to go for it. They live on 9%, and they do miss a Focus Blast, which is huge for me there. Really makes up for the big crit on my ABOMASNOW earlier. So we're going to Ice Shard them again. Goated ABOMASNOW being able to dodge, pick up another KO in this matchup. And now they go Skarmory, and this is where the game gets a little complicated because I do have a Haxorus that might be able to take this thing on 1v1. We've only seen Roost and Defog, so I don't know what the last two moves on this thing are. I'm assuming that Brave Bird has got to be on there. Maybe Iron Defense, maybe. I mean, we really don't know. But I can Leech Seed, try to get this thing always chipped down. My Hail is counteracting their Leftovers, so it's in a decent spot there. We're going to protect, see what they want to do at first, which was a misplay for sure, as they just Roost. I definitely should have just clicked Leech Seed every single time, but it's fine. They Brave Bird, and it does 83%, so that's a ton. But we're going to get the Leech Seed. We're at least going to get some recovery back, and if they want to click Roost on me, then it's not the end of the world at all. We're going to Ice Shard, predicting that Roost to come out, but they do go for Iron Defense, so this is where it gets scary. Now Haxorus doesn't actually beat this thing 1v1 if I let them set up. And what I probably should do is just go hard out to Haxorus at this point, or should have gone out to it before. Because if they want to Brave Bird me, it's not going to 2-hit KO me. I don't even know if it'll 3-hit KO me with the Leech Seed recovery. But they do have Hail, so I don't know. But if we caught them on a Roost, we could potentially Sword Stance and be able to knock them out with a Superpower. And then Nidoqueen obviously just dies to Ice Shard on ABOMASNOW. But we get a nice Protect turn on the Skarmory here. This is going to go for a while. We go back and forth, back and forth. They eventually knock out my ABOMASNOW, and they're at a pretty low amount of health. They're at 28%, but they're ×2 defense. So it's tough for my Haxorus to try to break through this thing. I'm going to go for Taunt so they can't Roost me. Roost all over me, which is great here, but they do have the Choice Scarf Nidoqueen in the back, which makes it really scary because I don't know if I'm Dragon Dance on the set. But one Brave Bird does not actually take me out there, but they just end up dying to the Hail. And if not for Hail, then I would have been able to maybe set up again, or maybe get some extra HP, be able to live whatever this Nidoqueen is going to go for. But Nidoqueen is just going to outrun me with Ice Beam there. Really tough loss for me. Finally had it. But if they hit me one more time with Brave Bird, then we would have got our Salic Berry activated and been faster than this Pokemon and would have won on the spot. So it's really tough. There's some nice luck for me in that game, but also, I mean, they had a lucky crit come from their side, and they had some really good plays, so it's hard to, to fault anything for losing this game. Maybe could have played just a little bit better, played better in that end game with Skarmory versus my Haxorus, but it is what it is. I still feel like we played decently solid versus them, and it's a 1-0 loss, the only loss in this season so far. But my team ended up winning. This was like one of the 2 losses that we had, so I think we went 5-2 versus them, and now we are heading to the finals. Hopefully we're going to be able to get another win here, cement an 8-1 season hopefully, and we'll see what happens. So we made it to finals. We ended up winning that well, we didn't win, but our team ended up winning, so carrying us to the finals, even though that was our first loss of the season. But we were facing off against the agency again. We just played them in week 6. Really scary team with the Alakazam, and you know, just everything on their team is tough for me to deal with. I feel like I caught a break in the first battle versus them, just catching them off guard with a double Scarfer, so I'm going to have to do a little bit more than that in this game. We're going to start with our Lando T. Choice Scarf set. I mean, just super good in this game. U-turn, Earthquake, knock off, and Explosion. Instead of Rocks, I think we have the knockoff, which is nice to potentially knock off the Jellicent that I really expect in this game. But it's also good for like Jirachi, or even getting a Life Orb off of Alakazam is really solid for me. We also have Choice Scarf, Nidoking, just like we brought in the last game. Basically the same exact spread. I mean, just worked out so perfect for us. Earth Power is really hard for them to switch into if they don't run like an Air Balloon Pokemon. So really solid here. We also have Lumberry Haxorus, so we can set up potentially on the Jellicent or the Arcanine again. Dragon Dance, Earthquake, Outrage, Dragon Claw. Just a very, very simple set on this Pokemon. Those 3 were basically the same, but these 3 are going to be completely different. We're rocking a Choice Scarf, Water Spout, Blastoise again. We also have Scald, Toxic, Rapid Spin in case they do want to stack us with Stealth Rocks, which are really annoying, but looks great into them once Jellicent is gone or if they don't bring it again in this matchup. We also have Leftovers, kind of stally ABOMASNOW again, just great versus them. Giga Drain, I mean, we just beat the Jellicent 1v1, so I don't really have to worry about it with my Blastoise at all. But Earthquake hits the Jirachi, so I can call that switch in. But also, you know, I beat the Donphan pretty well. They don't really have great answers to this thing once the Arcanine and Hydreigon are gone. And then we have a Choice Specs Raikou, incredible in this game, being able to click Thunderbolt and Volt Switch versus them, especially when the Donphan is gone. But I don't need the special, like the great speed tier. I think we have a speed tier just above Jirachi when we have a Rash Nature like we do here, just so I can run extreme speed in this game, just in case we need some extra damage on that Alakazam in the end game, or if they're rocking like some sort of setup Hydreigon, I really might need some extra damage with this Pokemon. But if I catch the switch in, like with the Signal Beam on the Donphan, then basically that Pokemon's gone, and we freely click Thunderbolt versus their entire team. But this is the finals, so we'll see what happens. Going into this game, my team is up 3-0 on the agency, so if we win this game, we're going to win the finals. If we lose this game, then it's going to go to the rest of my team, and we already played all our good games with our good team, so hopefully we're going to be able to win this one. We are here for finals, the deciding match in the playoffs. I mean, it's 3-0 for us right now. We want it to be 4-0. We would win if we get this win, and if we lose, then there's still a chance that we can win this if our other team members can clutch up, but they're counting on us. I don't even think half of them had prepped by this point because they just want us to win and they believe in me so much. Big change from week 1, but we're going to lead with Blastoise. They lead with the Terrakion. We were Choice Scarfed, so I'm just going to throw off a Scald. They didn't bring the Jellicent, so there's no reason not to click anything. I did expect them to be Choice Scarf though, so that's why I don't click Water Spout this first turn. They're just going to CC into me. We easily live and get a ton of damage off on them. Now they can go hard Hydreigon. We get a Scald off, get another nice 29% on that Pokemon. Every little bit of chip damage is important for this Hydreigon because once it's gone, we sweep through their team with Choice Scarf, Nidoking, clicking Earth Power. Terrakion already shows that it's not Choice Scarf, so we don't have to worry about that. Arcanine easily dies. Jirachi will probably die. Alakazam might need a little bit of chip, and then Donphan just needs a little bit as well. But we're going to switch out to ABOMASNOW on here. I don't think they're going to go for a Flamethrower, as they show that they're just going to be a Roost, more defensive variant. We're going to protect Scout out for the Flamethrower, as they do show to have it. Totally fine by me. We're going to start chipping them down with the Hail a little bit, and we're going to Ice Shard. I thought it was going to do a good amount of chip to this Pokemon because remember, I just want that Earth Power endgame. But they have a Yachi Berry, so great prep for them being able to only take 14% from the Ice Shard, but they do U-turn, predicting me to switch out. They're going to go into their Arcanine, but that's great for me. At least I didn't lose my ABOMASNOW this early in the game. Yeah, this is a stressful moment for me. We're just going to protect, try to get some extra leftovers recovery. We do see that this thing is offensive, so potential for a choice item on this, either Banded or Scarfed. We're going to go hard out to Lando T, hopefully not get burned by the Flare Blitz, and we don't. And if they're Choice Scarfed, they will definitely, well, I guess we're Choice Scarfed as well. But if they're Jolly Choice Scarfed, they could definitely outrun me here. That's a lot of damage, so super offensive this week. But they were going to go hard Donphan here. We get the U-turn, so break the sturdy on that Pokemon, and we get our Choice Scarf Blastoise out here to just throw off Scalds versus their team, since Hydreigon doesn't really want to switch in at this moment, especially if we would just click Blizzard versus them. But we just Scald, they sack off Terrakion, great turn for me overall, and they can potentially go out to like Jirachi or Hydreigon, which they choose to go to. And at this point, I mean, my Blastoise doesn't, I mean, it's solid versus their team for sure, but it's not necessary when we have another 2 Scarfers in the back. So I'm going to try to get as much chip on Hydreigon as possible. Don't get a burn or anything, but that's fine. We're still just chipping it down, get them down to 63% here as they go for the Flamethrower and finally knock me out. But at this point, they're at 57%. They easily die to an explosion, or even a U-turn is going to do so much. It does end up taking them out because they don't have enough Fizz Def. And we're going to go out to Nidoking because their switch-ins are severely limited. Maybe Alakazam, but they have to hope that I'm not a physical attacking set with like Crunch or Sucker Punch that destroys them. Everything else basically just gets destroyed, as they are going to go out to Alakazam, and we're just going to get Sludge Wave Chip. We don't need this Pokemon. Like I said, it would have been nice to have the Earth Power endgame, because look at it now. Once this Alakazam is chipped, but we do have the Land OT that can just spam Earthquake versus their entire team, which is really strong still. So now we're going to go out to it. They know that we got to be Choice Scarfed. They're going to make that switch to Arcanine and get that Intimidate off. As we U-turn, probably should have just Earthquaked, but I was expecting the Donphan to come out if anything. We get a free Haxorus here since I am Lumberry, so they can't actually, you know, do anything to me. Except for click Outrage. Scarfed Outrage versus me as we Dragon Dance. So just great prep on their part here. They are going to be locked into Outrage though, so we're totally fine to just come in with my Lando. We're going to take the Outrage, but they're not really going to do too much, and we just knock them out with an Earthquake. At this point, it's a 3v3. We need to keep either Landorus or my ABOMASNOW, just to be able to knock out Alakazam, since we do have the Ice Shard on that Pokemon. I guess Raikou, if it stays at max HP, it doesn't die to a Psychic from them if they're not Choice Specs, so it should be okay there. But I'm most worried about the Jirachi. Obviously, Donphan should come out here because it eats up a hit and can potentially go for Ice Shard, but they show to be Balloon on Jirachi, which is good prep by them as well in this game. We're going to make the hard switch out to my Raikou, as they're going to set up rocks for me. So now Lando has very limited switch-ins. We get to go for Choice Specs Signal Beam, predicting for them to go out to Donphan. They do not. Totally fine with me though, because all that damage and breaking the balloon is so good. And then this Donphan comes in, and I think, yeah, we just sack off. We get this damage. They're going to take so much from that Spec Signal Beam that it's basically just going to be in range of ABOMASNOW clicking Ice Shard versus them. And this Pokemon looks insane versus them. But we call them switching to Jirachi. It's just so obvious for me to click Ice Shard. And even then, they couldn't knock me out in any one hit. So we just call them and go for the Earthquake. Huge play for me there. And now we should just be able to take them out with Ice Shard, or could Protect to make them go down. But at this point, the game is sealed. ABOMASNOW, you know, it started off a really strong 5 kills in week 1, and this week it's going to get all the kills. Mr. President calls game, and we are going to win the whole league. We went 8-1 in a generation that I never played before, against a lot of pretty solid players. I had a really good team behind me to really support us, get us through at least the semifinals that I lost in. But yeah, great team tournament. First ever team tournament I did. And then I got MVP and won the whole thing with the, you know, calling game with ABOMASNOW. Really fun. I think that I had a really good team here. Didn't match up the best into a lot of the teams that we saw, but I played it really offensively, brought a lot of Choice Scarf Pokemon, had a lot of offensive capability, and even defensive capability on basically my entire team whenever I needed it. And it's just a fun format, you know. The old generations, I haven't played too much draft in them, but like Generation 5, it was a good time, and I'm really excited to do a Generation 4 draft league pretty soon in the future, hopefully, with Pokemon Battle Revolution coming out. Or I guess it's already out, but you know, Wi-Fi battling for that pretty soon is going to happen. But yeah, we end up winning the league, and I'm super duper happy. I'm super grateful for all team members on Sean DePaul. Shout out especially Friedel for being so good, and Cygnus for drafting me and helping out with the prep. But everyone on the team did so amazing, and eventually we might do some more stuff, might do some more team tournament things. I'm in one right now playing Little Cup, so you guys might see that soon. but also you might see some bloopers from this because some people on my team did some really bad plays. We saw some really funny stuff happen during the season, but really good season to remember. It's a second chip for me on the channel. Not my second one ever, but a second one. And you know, I'm trying to go into this new year and try to get at least 3 chips. Hopefully I'm going to be able to achieve that. This doesn't count, but I'm playing in finals of SDPA pretty soon. I'm in the playoffs of BBRD League, so who knows, we could get there sooner rather than later. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this movie style video for black and white draft. Not a format that you see very often, but maybe something that I'll try more in the future. But if you guys do enjoy more of this movie content or old gens or different styles, different formats, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and that's going to be about it for me. See you guys.